refuses to believe queer theory destabilizes normativity. Gender binary in the nuclear family. Change blocks the truth, smears people who try to show him. Creates an echo chamber for himself to reinforce his fantasy. He used to believe in something, what happened? Mills for liberty. Gnostic sex cult, building his own world. A Gnostic sex cult, unhinged from reality. He's totally lost it. What can we do but mock him relentlessly? It's not a Gnostic sex cult, James. No, it's not. Stop lying to your audience. No, it's not. It's not Gnostic change. Mary Nardini tells us queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. Catch up, James. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. Whoa. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. It's capitalism. To pocket all that money from the mills for liberty. The left hates capitalism, but James won't admit it. He refuses to believe queer theory stabilizes normativity. Gender binary and the nuclear family. But James blocks the truth, smears people who try to show him. Creates an echo chamber for himself to reinforce his fantasy. Is to believe in something. What happens for liberty? Gnostic sex cult, building his own world. The Gnostic sex cult, unhinged from reality. He's totally lost it. What can we do but mock him relentlessly?
What does
He doesn't.
I don't know. This might be coded, but I'm not sure. What does a Gnostic sex cult have to do with the far left's goal? This guy named Bot is going off about this Gnostic sex cult. What that?
And so we're just not going to answer that question.
Okay, so that's I figured that. So we're just okay. That's why I figured that. Yeah.
Number one, what do you have to say?
So I think we've chatted before, maybe on another account of mine. This is probably my 15th, 16th account. I'm not sure at this point. I'm friends with James Lindsay.
No, I know.
Hold on.
Here we go.
No, I'm on your team. I'm Team Carolyn. Listen, hold on. I'm Team Carolyn.
Okay.
And I've tried.
We're back.
I've tried to talk to James about this multiple times. Is there any idea of a time you guys could do a sit down and actually like discuss and mull over really what you guys differences are? Because his whole idea is that it's Gnosticism. And that's something I've argued with him for, at this point, years. Like, it's not Gnosticism. It's called Jews. It's literally called Jews. It's not Gnosticism. It's Jews. And I think that you have been a really great voice with, you have a following that's awesome. And, we appreciate that. So, do you see him being it? Because we're kind of on the in and out right now. I'm not, I've gotten a little angry at him based on some of his rhetoric, anti-Nick rhetoric particularly. So do you see that happening? Like maybe
No.
coming to the table and talking?
No, I don't see that happening. But let me explain why I don't see that happening. And first of all, I want to say I really appreciate you coming up and saying that. I actually I really do, and I understand that you're probably going to get in trouble with him with whatever relationship
Oh yeah,
you guys have left.
I'm
Yeah.
about to. Yeah,
Yeah, you're about to get blocked. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. I tried to work with James for years, literally years. And like I dedicated the whole last chapter in my book to him. And I meant it. I meant I wrote it in 2021, so it was a long time ago. But James was instrumental in waking me up. And I will never take away from him that I think the reason I dedicated the last chapter in my book to him was because I truly believe that if everyone worked as hard as he did, we wouldn't have a problem right now. And so I took a lot of inspiration from him before I really started getting really dug into the far left stuff. And I don't take any of that back. But the fact is that I literally tried to work with James for years behind the scenes. I was trying to play nice with James for years, and I could just never get a response from him. And it would be one of those things where James would do these things where he would attack friends of mine, or he would go after people publicly. And I kind of DM him privately. I'd be like, do you really want to attack this person? They're like the best activist in New Hampshire. Can we just play nicely? And James would always end up blowing it out of proportion and making it worse. And I said nothing. I cannot tell you how many times I bit my tongue about all the things I disagreed with him about for literally years. Even when people would come into my content and complain to me about him, I'd be like, he has value. We just got to leave him alone. Just stop. We don't have to have this fight, whatever.
I've been on the same plane, just having to deal with the fact that and again, you can't say too much because at the same time, like, I mean, I value him as a friend. I mean, we became friends first and foremost. That we didn't even come to be friends from an academic perspective. It was just, we were just friends. Like, it was cool. I'm friends with his wife. I'm nice to him, and I care about his family, and I respect him. But at the same time, it's like, you have influence and you are refusing to say things that need to be said. And not only that, that would be acceptable if he weren't also at the same time attacking people like Nick Fuentes who are saying the things that need to be said.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And listen, I've said a million times, I don't agree with Nick on everything, but do you know what happens when I don't agree with Nick on something? I shut my mouth. Because Nick is too important, and what he's doing is too important, and we are perfectly capable of keeping our mouths shut. But to go on about James, I really think he's been bought and paid for by Moms for Liberty and Turning Point USA. I don't think that there's any chance that he's ever going to speak up against this stuff. And the reason I say that is the reason that James blocked me on Twitter is I literally criticized Moms for Liberty in his replies. That's why he blocked me on Twitter.
I definitely know about some of the funding issues. Like, that is actually a thing. Again, I don't want to get myself in, too hot of water, but, I do think it's very disingenuous of him, especially, and for me, it really is just the personal attacks on Nick. That's what bothers me. And I do think that he's unfair to you as well.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Like, he's also made many personal attacks against me. And listen, like, all my community tried to do was we tried to get them to watch a video that was primary source evidence from far left trainings. First of all, him and Logan Lansing and Woke Distance, they ignore all this primary source video evidence. They literally refuse to watch it. And not only do they refuse to watch it, they're proud of the fact that they refuse to watch it. And so my community kept putting this stuff in James's Twitter feed to try to get him to pay attention to what was going on in the real world. He started blocking everyone. He started smearing everyone. He flat out told people, and then we have all this documented. He told people to block members of my community because we were a coordinated campaign against him. He told people, he photoshopped evidence to make it look like no one was watching my live streams. James has accused me multiple times of having serious personality disorders that I don't have. He has literally spread smear campaigns that have been going around about me for years that have always been debunked. He has supported people who are stalking me. And so the reason I say that I don't think there will ever be a sit down with James is I just don't see how that can happen. And I mean this too. And I would come to the table if James wanted to put everything aside and actually put on his fucking big boy pants and act like an adult and come to the table. I would do it, and I would be paid responsibly. But I don't think he will.
If I were to maybe speak with him on a more rational level, like kind of, figure everything out. If I were to set up something, would you be willing to come to the table? Because I think I have a good ear with James, and I think I could make that happen if you were willing as well.
I would be willing to come to the table, but I will treat James how he treats me. And so if he comes at me, if he insults me, if he smears me, if he shit talks members of my community, then I will treat him in kind. But if he comes to the table and he behaves like an adult and there is an agreement upon an adult discussion, then I will do it and I will behave appropriately.
So you're saying there's a chance?
It's never been from my end. It literally for years. It has never been from my end. I had always hoped in my dream world, I saw what James and I were doing is actually a pretty good complementary match of each other because I purposefully started down the road I was
I
on
thought you
because
guys
he
were a
wasn't
team.
doing it. No, we have literally never spoken. We've never spoken about this. I started doing what I was doing because he wasn't doing it. And it's like, we need people. My thought process at the time was we need people attacking this from all fronts. And if he can get really deep into the philosophy of it, and I can get really deep into the real world application, that just makes sense to come together and marry those two things and say, what can we learn from this? How can we actually effectively fight back against this from both angles? I tried for years. He didn't want to do it.
I think that's where you guys clash, is you have real world application and he is too caught up in the philosophical and theological versions of what the idea is. You have seen it, so it makes you angry, whereas he dreams about it, writes about it, and he doesn't quite understand. And I've talked to him about this. That's actually something we've talked about, and I tried to explain to him, and that's why, like, I tried to get him, like, as I say, quote unquote, nick pilled. Like, it's the Jews, not the Gnosticists. It's that's the underlying root of all these problems. But I think that's where you guys clash, is the fact that you actually are angry because you see the real world implications, whereas he is just philosophizing and he is just trying to obfuscate the actual problem.
It's not even that. It's that I'm legitimately terrified. I think the left is going to win, and I think they're going to win in within our lifetimes. I think there's going to be a Marxist revolution in this lifetime. It's like I'm watching them get all their chess pieces in place right now, and it's like they're right now probably like 36 moves away from checkmate, but in 10-15 years they're going to be 3 moves away from checkmate, and that's when they're going to actually go, and that's when we're going to have violent overthrow of the fucking government. And I think that this is going to impact pretty much everyone that's alive today in the country in ways that most of them have no idea about. I watch people get their kids taken away. I watch people have their kids transitioned in school. I go to all these events. I'm around these people in person. James has never experienced the things I've experienced. And it's like, like at some point, if you actually care about this in the way that he claims to care about it, you put aside your fucking ego and you come to the table, because if you don't, there are real people that are going to be affected by this. And I'm not going to apologize for like being passionate about this, because if I wasn't passionate about this, I would have gone back and done corporate consulting a long ass time ago and made a lot more money and been a private person and had a lot better of a life.
No, that's completely true. I'm not going to get into personal things, but I do understand the idea that people I'm trying to wiggle around it really. I'm walking on the sun here. People are very in tune with their bank account. I'm not saying anything about James here, but I'm also not saying anything. If you catch my drift, I understand the problem here. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing me up.
No, thank you for having the conversation. I do appreciate it. Well. Wasn't that interesting? Wasn't that an interesting conversation? Who is she? I don't know. I don't know who that was. And that was the only part about James in that Twitter space. That Twitter space was mostly about a different Twitter space that I did the day before, where I got thrown under the bus and set up by a bunch of intellectually dishonest wignats. But it was interesting that person came onto that Twitter space and said she was friends with James, like in real life, and really seemed to want to get James and I to talk. Do I believe her? I mean, a lot of people have asked me, do I believe her? Do I believe that was real? I really don't know. I really don't know. Obviously, like, I don't know any more about this than you guys do. That, like, what you just saw is the extent of what I know. But wasn't that an interesting development? And I do think that it's one of those cases where I put out my position very clearly. I tried to play nicely with James for years. He didn't want to play nicely. He's the one that sold out and took Moms for Liberty and Turning Point USA money, which we all know that comes from we all know where that comes from. We all know where that comes from. Now, what I will say, and I do want to make this very clear, I'm not actually making the argument that it's the Jews, it's the Jews, it's the Jews. I'm not actually making that argument. Because here's the thing, is I do think there are certainly arguments to be made with the origin of a lot of these ideas coming from Jewish places, but I deal in the real world, and in the real world, I have yet to see evidence that leads me to believe that every far left thing that's going on in the country is being driven by the Jews. And I'm open to receiving that evidence. If people have real world primary source evidence, then show it to me. That's actually evidence that I'm asking for, not cherry-picked propaganda, because I cannot get the dissident right to show me this evidence. I have asked over and over and over and over and over again. I've done Twitter spaces about it. I've reached out to people about it. I've kept an open mind. I've said, if you have primary source receipts, then show them. And not only do they never show what the actual evidence is, they deflect, they obfuscate, they insult me, they smear me, they lie about me, they pretend they've shown me evidence that they haven't shown. They don't listen to the evidence that I'm actually asking for. So I'm not actually making the argument that it's the Jews. I will say I don't think it's Oprah. And the reason we bring up Oprah is James and James's friends, namely Lisa Logan. Does everyone remember this? Remember when James was promoting that Lisa Logan was going to do a whole expose of videos about how the origin of all the crazy stuff that we're experiencing in the world right now, it's not from the radical revolutionary socialist left. No. It's from an Oprah New World Order Gnostic conspiracy theory sex cult that is around New Age religion. And if you think I'm lying, we actually back in the day watched a video that Lisa Logan produced called The Evolutionary Thought Leaders and Their New Thought Religion, aka Oprah's favorite cult. James was tweeting about how Oprah had delivered Gnosticism to the masses. This really happened. This really happened. James really does think the far left is a Gnostic sex cult that is run by the WEF and Oprah and New Age spiritualists and is being delivered through Oprah to the masses. Now, I don't think that theory is correct. I don't think that's true. I certainly don't have evidence of that. I'm also not convinced that I can say it's the Jews, because what I do have, I might not have evidence from the dissident right, because again, they refuse to give me this evidence, and so I have to make the assumption at this point that the evidence just doesn't exist. Again, if it does exist, prove me wrong. But what I do have evidence of is that there are an awful lot of people on the radical revolutionary socialist left that are not Jewish. I do have evidence of the radical revolutionary left overtly being anti-Semitic. They don't like Jews. And so I guess it's kind of to be continued about what the origin point of a lot of this stuff is, and if it even matters, quite frankly, and who's funding it now. That's to be continued. But that's not actually my point. My point is that apparently James Lindsay's friend really wants me to talk to him. And I just want to be on the record of saying I agreed to do it in public, on video. I agreed to do it just like I tried to work with James for years and years and years, and he never responded. I agreed to do it just like I would agree to talk to anyone that wants to have a reasonable conversation. And now the ball is in James's court. The ball is in James's court about whether or not, I mean, James has a couple of options. If that person was not real, if that person was not actually a friend of James, then what James can do is come out and say and tweet, that was not anyone I know. He can denounce that entire video. He can denounce it, say, I have no fucking clue who this person is. That's an option. Or James can pretend that that conversation never happened, which this is what I actually think is going to happen. James is just going to pretend he never heard anything about this and that conversation never happened, and he's just going to cross his fingers and hope it goes away. We're never going to let it go away, James. We're never going to let it go away. As long as you're shilling bullshit like a Gnostic fucking sex cult, we're never going to let it go away. I just want to be really clear about this up front, James. We are never going to let this go away. We might give you a break every now and again because we focus on multiple things, but we are never going to let this go away. We will never let you forget about this. That video is now archived for posterity, bro. And don't think we aren't planning on coming after your podcast again the next time we feel like it. Don't think we don't already have all sorts of other accounts set up that you don't know about, that are already subscribed to your podcast that you can't ban. And everyone has multiple accounts this time, James. Everyone has multiple accounts that are already subscribed to your podcast, so whatever time limit you put on it isn't going to work. And we'll bide our time, and we'll do it when we're good and ready to do it. Not to be too threatening or ominous or anything, but I think it's very easy to just ignore this stuff and pretend it goes away. Rottweiler says, I doubt the authenticity of that person. James is friends with Zionists like Charlie Kirk and the MILFs. No way he has a Groiper adjacent friend. Yeah, that was like a mommy Groiper too. That was an older lady. And listen, older women love mommies love Nick, grandmothers love Nick. Nick loves the moms and the grandmas. He's very nice to them. So maybe it's true. I mean, there were enough details in that talk where I was kind of like, is this real? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But the reason I bring this up is because I was doing what I do all the time and kind of looking around YouTube for a presentation to watch today. And I happened to find this. Look at this. This is a small Moms for Liberty YouTube page. This video only has 31 views. It was uploaded yesterday. Queer Theory and CRT in American K-12 schools. James Lindsay speaks at Moms for Liberty, Charleston, South Carolina. And if we found, there's James. There's James. And you know what, I gotta tell you, I'm really excited about this video because this video to me looks to be recorded on some woman's like cell phone. It kind of looks, I called it a secret recording in the title of the video. I'm sure James knew he was being recorded, but it's one of those things where like, if you're speaking at an event and someone's just sitting there holding up a cell phone, you tend to forget that you're actually on video. You tend to forget that you're actually on video. And we know what happened the last time. Does anyone remember the last time we found one of these secret cell phone recordings of James Lindsay? The last time this happened, it was a Turning Point USA event where someone obviously had their cell phone set up on a table or something, and James was doing an extemporaneous speech. Does everyone just want to relive just really, really quickly? I won't play the whole video, but really, really quickly what happened the last time we found one of these kind of secretly recorded videos of James giving a talk that wasn't kind of like an official event recording. Let's just remind ourselves what happened.
I steal from people all the time. I'm as bad as Claudia.
What? Excuse me, what? I steal from people all the time. I'm as bad as Claudine Gay, is what he's about to say. Oops, James. Oops. Sometimes doing an extemporaneous speech where you don't script it beforehand leads you to saying the quiet part out loud. What was that? What was that? What, James?
Podcast is getting downloaded 10 million times because I thought it was profound. So you don't know where your message is going to get and where it's not going to get. I steal from people all the time. 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 I'm as bad as Claudine Gay.
I steal from people all the time. I'm as bad as Claudine Gay. And if we had watched that entire video, you guys would have literally heard James use language that I have used in almost every episode of Socialism Saturday for a good long while. So the reason I wanted to watch this video is not just that I always am interested in what James is actually teaching people in the real world, because really all James Lindsay is doing on Twitter right now is going, they're communists. They're communists. They're communists. They're communists. They're communists. This is James Lindsay's entire Twitter feed. Everything Kamala Harris does makes her a communist, even though real communists and real socialists denounce Kamala Harris all the time. Real communists and socialists don't like Kamala Harris. That doesn't seem to matter to James. It doesn't matter to James what happens in the real world, which of course is the point of all of this. Is that we live in the real world. We know what the real far left is saying in the real world, and it does not align at all with the bullshit that James is selling to millions and millions and millions of people. All James is doing is going, she's a communist, she's a communist, she's a communist, she's a communist, completely ignoring mountains of evidence that real communists and socialists do not like Kamala Harris, and we watched one of those videos yesterday if people don't believe me. So the reason I want to watch this video is not just to find out what exactly James is actually teaching to people in the real world when he's kind of like off the internet and he's actually just like trying to present information. I also want to know if James says the quiet parts out loud in this video. I wonder if James even knows that this video is online. I downloaded this video before I announced that we were going to be watching it because I was like, does James even know that this is on the internet? Because who knows what he might say. He literally admitted to plagiarizing and stealing from people in his last speech that we found like this. So who knows what might come out of his mouth? Who knows? James has the Gnostic knowledge of what socialists really want in their hearts, to vote for capitalist Kamala. Yeah, exactly. 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 Yep, this YouTube channel this is a brand new YouTube channel. This is like a very new upload. This is within the past 24 hours. I don't know when this talk actually took place. Does it say in the description? No, it doesn't say. So what it says is Charleston Moms for Liberty chairperson Tara Wood introduces world-renowned author and liar James Lindsay. It doesn't actually say that. I embellish, but you know what I mean. At the latest chapter meeting, James discusses the history of queer theory in academia. So that'll be interesting for us to hear. The undeniable links to Marxism. James doesn't even know how it's linked to Marxism, but okay. As well as the way members of modern America academia are implementing its twisted goals in K-12 schools around the nation. Yep, okay, so let's just do a little prediction. 1 in the chat if you think that James is going to get the queer stuff all wrong. 2 in the chat if you think that James is going to teach accurate information about queer theory and queer Marxism to Moms for Liberty. 1 in the chat if you think James is going to get everything wrong. 2 in the chat if you think that James is going to teach accurate information based on real-world evidence. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. We don't have a lot of faith. 1, 1, 1. Either he's going to get it wrong, or 3. Yeah, we could have, is he going to steal my talking points completely? And is he going to rip off my work? If James Lindsay mentions the first time that the Mary Nardini gang comes out of James Lindsay's mouth, I am going, you guys are going to wait for this. The first time that Mary Nardini gang comes out of James Lindsay's mouth, I am going to lose my shit like I have never lost it before. You guys are basically going to be able to see like a nuclear explosion happened from the middle of New Hampshire if James Lindsay ever has the gall to work the Mary Nardini gang into his stuff without crediting me. One. Well, yeah, if he steals my work, he'll get it right. True. One. One, because he has to say what the MILFs want to hear. Yeah, that's true too. That's true too. And by the way, guys, I don't have a problem with normal people in Moms for Liberty. I don't have a problem with like normal moms and dads. They're just trying to help their kids. They're trying to do the right thing. They're being conned by this whole game. Moms for Liberty is a giant fucking grift. It's a giant fucking AstroTurf organization that actually came about because they want like to support Ron DeSantis for president. I hope everyone understands that, right? Like, that's why Moms for Liberty was lifted out. It was a AstroTurfed operation to support Ron DeSantis for president. That didn't quite work out. They still got to make money doing something. So, but I don't blame normal Moms for Liberty members. I blame the bad actors at the top, like fucking Tiffany Justice, that evil cunt. Yeah, I said it. Yep. And I blame James. Because James is lying to people. People don't like it when I say that James Lindsay is lying to people. They're like, Carlin, maybe he just doesn't know the truth. Well, if James Lindsay doesn't know the truth, then James Lindsay is a massive fucking retard. The reason I say that is James Lindsay has had his head in the literature, in the philosophy of this for years and years and years and years and years. I know that James Lindsay has encountered the same information that I have. I know he's seen it. I know for a fact. Like, some of the stuff that James doesn't talk about is basic 101 level stuff that literally anyone in my audience knows within like a couple weeks of finding my content. So the reason I say James is lying to people is I don't see any reality at all in which James can exist in the world that he exists in and not understand these things. I don't see it. So I think he's lying to people. I think he's lying for money. I think he's pushing a political narrative to make money and to get famous on the internet and to build a brand. And he tries to, he comes after people like me, and I don't think I'm the only person he comes after by a long shot. He went after Joshua Lissick and Jack Posobiec as well. I'm not the only person that James Lindsay comes after. But he goes after anyone that doesn't adhere to the talking points that line his fucking wallet. Yeah, he cherry picks only the things that will make him look good, that fit this Gnostic sex cult narrative that he has. And so we have a responsibility here. We have a responsibility as people who are actually hinged into reality, who actually know what's going on, who actually listen to the left all the fucking time. We have a responsibility to provide a fact check for people. And maybe only a teeny tiny portion of the people who listen to James will find this information. And maybe only a teeny tiny portion of the people who listen to James will actually respond to it and take the time to look at real world evidence. That's fine. At least we've done our job, right? At least we've done our job of putting the information out there and making an effort to correct all of the wrongs and the falsehoods that James Lindsay is shilling onto millions and millions and millions of people with reckless abandon to make money. It's even my dog's upset. The Chihuahua is upset. The Chihuahua has grievance as well. So we're going to be watching this video today, and I'm going to warn you guys, this video is not good quality. We're going to have to really pay attention to this one, but I think it's important. I want to know what James is teaching. I want to know what he's saying. I want to know if he's saying the quiet part out loud. I want to know if he says anything in this video that we can quite frankly use to show people what a goddamn shill he is. We need to do this. We need to suffer. It's for the good of everyone that we suffer through this and we do the work of exposing this content to the world. So I want to thank the person at Moms for Liberty that put this super secret recording online. I appreciate you guys. Even if you guys take this recording down, by the way, I've already got it downloaded. So you guys, if James says anything problematic in this, I've literally already gotten the recording downloaded. So taking it off the internet won't actually delete the information. I just want to make sure Moms for Liberty knows that. Because you know that's something they're probably going to try to do if James actually did say something that could get him in trouble. And that's just the way it goes. Anyway, guys, that's what we're going to be watching today. Welcome to Happy Hour. Happy Hour is a stream that I do on Fridays where we usually watch woke training, but we're kind of watching woke training. Insofar as I'm concerned, James is just as woke as the people that he complains about. So we watch woke training, we talk about it, and we drink some beers. I've got 4 pumpkin beers. It is a pumpkin beer day that I will be introducing to you guys in just a second, and you guys will be able to vote on the beer. Don't worry, everyday therapist. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. I just got back from the store. We have beer. I'll show it to you guys in a second. I do just want to remind people that now is a great time to sign up for my Substack. If there is anything that we have learned over the past week or so, I don't know why my husband is allowing my dog to bark right now when he could be shutting my dog up, but that's okay. That's okay. Maybe Victor could throw something at the dog to get her to stop barking. No, probably. See, I have to have my door open because it's hot as hell in Vermont. I can't just shut my door to like muffle the barking dog because it's so hot here. I'm just like, ugh. It would be like an oven. So the dog is going to have feelings. Everyone just has to, deal with that. Maybe my husband will step in and rectify the situation. Anyway, in the last, I have 2 dogs. I have 2 dogs. I have a Chihuahua and I have a Chiweenie. And they're both black. You want to know why I have black dogs, Fluffy Cow Respecter? Because black dogs matter. Did I say Vermont? Shit. I meant New Hampshire. I live in New Hampshire. Did I really say Vermont? Okay. I promise I haven't even had anything to drink yet. I don't know where. I don't know. Some wire crossed in my brain or something. Everyone knows I'm in New Hampshire though. Fuck Vermont. I didn't magically pick up and move to Vermont. Everyone, no one panic. Everything's fine. Okay? All right. I believe you guys. Anyway, it was the dog. It was the dog barking. The dog threw me off. Anyway, guys, if there is anything that we have learned in the past week, it's the importance of people that are actually independently funded. The reason that Lauren Chen is getting massively fucked over right now is Lauren Chen probably took money from Russia. Now, I don't actually care. I personally don't actually care that Lauren Chen took money from Russia, but and the reason I don't care, by the way, is that all of these fucking influencers are taking money from someone. Most of the conservative influencers that you're seeing on the internet are taking money from Israel or from Zionists with the explicit expectation that they're going to support Israel. So do I hold Lauren Chen to a different standard than I hold all these other people to? No. I'm not going to get outraged. The only reason that people are outraged by Lauren Chen is that Lauren Chen was deviating from the approved conservative narrative. That's why people are pissed off. However, my point is this. I don't take money from any foreign government. I don't ever plan to take money from any foreign government. I don't take money from political organizations. I don't take money from millionaires who have a political agenda to sell. I only am funded by grassroots people just like you. This is the way that I built my platform. This is the way that I built my business. I don't want to take money from someone who is ever going to have the expectation that I'm going to shill any sort of political agenda. The only way I'm able to make this work is when people like you step up and support the work I'm doing for $8 a month, $80 a year. You can do that on my Substack. That is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. I am trying to get 100 new supporters on the Substack this month. You can sign up monthly. You can sign up annually. This is less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks. And guys, again, we have seen the result of what happens when people don't have grassroots funding. We're seeing that happen right before our eyes. Lauren Chen got her entire professional career nuked on YouTube yesterday because of this. Based on an accusation, by the way. Lauren Chen hasn't been indicted. Lauren Chen hasn't been convicted. Lauren Chen hasn't even been accused of a crime. Lauren Chen was not the one indicted yesterday, and yet YouTube nuked 4 of her YouTube channels. I can understand YouTube nuking the Tenet Media channel, but they also went after her personally. And it's like, kind of shame on her for putting herself in that position. I actually feel really bad for her. But I am never going to put myself in that position. And because of that, I can't be bought by anyone. You know that when you fund my work, you will never receive a political narrative. You will get my real interpretation of what I think based on the evidence in front of me. And not only will I give you my interpretation of what I think, I will give you the real world receipts so you can look at it and decide for yourself what you think. And if you end up disagreeing with me, that's fine, but I only report to you. My job is to tell you the truth and to show you why I think that and to give you the primary source evidence so that you can make up your mind for yourself. That is how we are operating here. The only way that I can make this work is when people like you step up to fund the work I'm doing so I don't have to go find a millionaire to fund my work. I don't have to go to Qatar or Iran or Russia to get my work funded. I am funded by people who care about this, people who want access to the information that I show you that you don't find anywhere else on the internet, people who just want to know what the truth is and who want to be able to have reasonable conversations about that. So if you appreciate what I'm doing, help me get to my supporter goal of 100 new supporters on the Substack this month. I would really, really appreciate it. You can head over to carlin.substack.com and sign up over there. That is the number one way I ask people to support my work. There are also other ways you can do it on Locals, on Patreon, on stuff like that. But if you don't have a Substack membership, please start there. Please start there. The reason I like it on Substack is because that gives me a way to track monthly and annual, that is where the bulk of my funding comes from. It gives me an easy way to track monthly and annual donations so I know how much money I have to work with. It gives me easy ability to plan. It is my primary content hub on the internet. It is where all my best content is. And, that's just where the focus is. If you want to send in super chats, I would also appreciate that. But make sure you sign up for the Substack first. All right, let's see. What else do I have? That's pretty much it. Oh, by the way, please make sure you're subscribed to my Rumble channel. Just in case. I am, of course, doing a new Rumble exclusive show called Something Controversial. I don't know when we're going to do the next one yet. I have a Twitter space that I'm supposed to be doing with someone later tonight, so I don't think it'll be tonight. But I just haven't had a chance to do it this week. Something Controversial is a show where I watch videos that I really can't watch on YouTube about like World War II and Hitler and Jews and flat earth and moon landings and conspiracy theories and 9/11 and the JFK assassination and all sorts of stuff that you're not supposed to watch on YouTube. So I do it I fly by the seat of my pants. I do it when I feel like doing it, but it is exclusive on Rumble. I also actually stream it on Kick as well, so I guess it's not exclusive on Rumble, but you can watch it on Kick. But Rumble is the place that I really want to get subscribers up to. And listen, it's like one of those things where, again, Lauren Chen just got 4 YouTube channels nuked yesterday based on not being accused of a crime, not being indicted for a crime, not being convicted of a crime, but just based on an accusation. And, I'm starting to tiptoe into the waters of talking about the banned and forbidden subjects, so you just never know. So make sure you are subscribed to my Rumble channel, because at least there's a backup, and that way, yeah, I don't think I need to say anything else. Yeah, indeed. Before we get started, it is Friday, and Friday is happy hour, so I've got some beer. Hang on one sec. Beer. Now, if you're new, what we do on Fridays is I go to the craft beer store and I get 4 beers, and I tell you about the 4 beers that I get, and then you guys get to vote on which one I drink first on the stream. I'm probably not going to drink all of them on the stream. This is just to kind of introduce people to craft beer, because I love craft beer. Craft beer is a sign that God loves us and wants us to be happy. And today I have a pumpkin beer day. These are all different pumpkin beers. There are all sorts of pumpkin beers out right now. With pumpkin beers, it's tricky because I either love them or I hate them, and there is no in between. So I'm trying to find my favorite pumpkin beers of the season. You guys are going to help me do it. Let me show you the selection that I have, and then you guys get to vote. The first one is from Pipe Dream Brewing. Pipe Dream Brewing is a New Hampshire brewery. I think they're in Londonderry, New Hampshire, about 20 minutes away from me. Pipe Dream Brewing does a lot of specialty brews, and they generally do a pretty good job. This is just called Pumpkin Ale. Ale brewed with pumpkin and spices, and it says, our seasonal pumpkin ale is brewed with 450 pounds of ripe pumpkins and a special blend of spices to give you a bold, flavorful taste of beautiful New England autumn. That is our first option, the Pipe Dream Brewing Pumpkin Beer. The second one I actually love the branding of this beer, but I forget if I like the beer. I always forget if I actually like this beer because I like the branding so much. It's called Rosemary's Baby. And Rosemary's Baby is just one of the greatest movies. If you've never seen Rosemary's Baby, it's one of the greatest movies of all time. And so this is a pumpkin beer from Two Roads called Rosemary's Baby. And it is a pumpkin ale brewed with spices and aged in rum barrels. And it also has vanilla beans. So that is our second option. This is also a little bit more alcoholic. This is almost 7%. And so that's our second option. So if you go to craft beer stores, typically, so I don't go to and buy beer at the supermarket or anything like that, although you can. Some places do it. But if you go to craft beer stores, what you do is they have a bunch of these rings sitting out, and you can buy single beers and make your own 4-pack, make your own 6-pack, whatever. So this is a thing that craft beer stores just do, and I would recommend checking out a craft beer store near you if you want to try that out. The next beer I have is, I've never had this one before. This is another New Hampshire beer. This is from Stark Brewing Company. It has a dog on it, and it's called Grumpy Pumpkin. And let me see. This is from Manchester, New Hampshire. Our Grumpy Pumpkin Ale is made with around 400 pounds of real New Hampshire pumpkins. Expect a lot of pumpkin flavor up front with some nice nutmeg, brown sugar, and vanilla in the background. Enjoy with or without a sugar rim. That's going to be our third option. We'll call that Grumpy Pumpkin. It's the one with the dog on it. And our last one looks a little bit like a can of coffee, doesn't it? Isn't that cute with the pumpkin devil on it? This is a pumpkin spice latte beer. This is 6% alcohol. It's an oatmeal stout with pumpkin spice and coffee. It's from Fat Orange Cat Brewing. Where are they located out of? I don't know if they say. New Haven, Connecticut. And that's all it says. So these are our 4 options. I'm putting the poll in the chat on YouTube. Sorry, the poll is YouTube only. So again, we've got Pipe Dream Brewing Pumpkin Ale. We've got Rosemary's Baby. This is gonna be aged in a bourbon barrel with spices and vanilla beans. We've got our Grumpy Pumpkin Dog Beer. This has some brown sugar in it, I think. And then we've got our Pumpkin Spice Latte. Those are your options for voting for today. And while you're doing that, I will get our video up. And it's a little tricky, right? Because they're all pumpkins, so you have to vote based on which can you like the best, or which alcohol content, or something like that. Yup, it seems like the dog beer is going to be the overwhelming winner for today. How did I know? How did I know? Oh, wait, hang on a second. Hang on. Just Pearly Things is talking about Lauren Chen. She only has 500 people watching her. Jeez. Some might say, Carlin, you only have 100 people watching you on YouTube right now. Well, I have 100,000 subscribers, and Just Pearly Things has 2 million subscribers. So we are, like, it's not exactly the same thing. I'm just saying. All right, let me see. Yup, dog beer it is. All right, let me put the rest of the beers in the fridge. Hang on. If you're drinking anything fun today, let us know. How did Just Pearly Things get so famous? I don't understand it. There we go. Let me pour my, I'm actually excited to try this. Oh, shit. Beer just exploded on me. All right. I drink my beer out of a wine glass because I'm fancy like that. Just the way it goes. All right, everyone. Cheers. Happy Friday. It's not bad. Not bad. Definitely has some nutmeg in it. I'm not sure I taste that much pumpkin in it, though. See, that's the problem with pumpkin beers. Either they have a lot of pumpkin or they have no pumpkin. And even if they have a lot of pumpkin in them, they don't always taste like pumpkin. And I don't understand that. Anyway, we have our beer. We have our video. I'm drinking watermelon pucker mixed with vodka right now. You like IPAs? I don't know if we can let you hang out with us. You drink IPAs? Really? IPAs are like pissing contests for men who want to see how bitter they can go, but they don't you actually like IPAs? Does anyone actually like IPAs? The answer is no. You don't even need to say that. The answer is no. No one actually likes IPAs. They're just pissing contests for men. That's all they are. That's what you want to do, fine. I'm not going to judge. Okay, I'm going to judge a little. Pearl is famous because she tells bitter single men who hate women what they want to hear, that women are the problem. Isn't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? Thanks, LK. Appreciate it. IPAs are India Pale Ales. They're a very specific kind of beer that are very, very bitter. And I don't like them. But you should try them. Listen, if you're just getting into beer, if you're not really like, try everything. Because like if you think you don't like beer, you just haven't found the right beer yet, because beer is so cool nowadays. You can find beer that tastes like anything. You can find all sorts of different flavors. Just try anything, and I'm confident that when most of you try IPAs, you're not going to like them. Anyway, let's get this video started. Let's see what James had to say. And remember, guys, this is on a cell phone. This is like a secret recording. The sound is probably not going to be great. I can't fix it. And we're just going to have to work our way through it. All right? Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I think that's really, yes, perfect. Yep.
Hey! No, I'm so glad everybody made it tonight. It's been a while since we've had a big meeting up here. I'm so excited, and I know you're excited to hear James. So I'll make this short, but I wanted to let y'all know that a meeting like this, where we bring in a keynote speaker, we probably won't have any more of these until after elections. And so we're doing a new game plan. So remember in 2022, we had, first of all, the momentum in Charleston County was amazing to flip the school board. I mean, it was the biggest flip nationwide. And, well, it was incredible. So we had small meetings at people's homes, and, you know, I would show up and speak whenever I could. Corey, you were at one of them, actually, I remember.
Yep.
Yeah, and so what we're going to try to do is we have sign-up sheets in the back. There's 3 different sheets because of Michelle Weber, that's running for District 6 School Board, Michelle Faust, that's running for District 8 School Board, and of course Ed Kelly in District 2. So, oh yeah. Right, so we're looking for volunteers that want to, you can be maybe a neighborhood captain. You know, I did that for my neighborhood in 2022. I can't do that this year because none of the candidates are, you know, in my district. But, or you could do even your precinct. So on August 1st, Ashley, where are you, Ashley Sechel? Can you stand up? Do y'all, yeah, she's great. So she is the volunteer coordinator for Charleston County Republican Party. And she's been doing a fantastic job. And she had an event at her home, and I think there were about 100 people there. And I made it, but barely. I was not feeling good. So I wanted to be there, and I, you know, just to say a few words. And there were several candidates that showed up, and Ed Kelly was there, and it's very effective. And if you want to get involved at the precinct level, she has the forms, right, and the QR code. And Ashley will help you. It's not as hard as you think. And these meetings like this this is real grassroots. And it is the way to get people involved and to get them informed. Because some people still have their head in the sand. They don't understand what's going on. And then, thank you, right? So there's Ashley. If you need to talk to Ashley. And then Jessica. Where's Jessica Ziegler? Okay. Thank you, Jessica. So she had a meeting at her house.
Ask how many people were at my house. Raise your hand if you were at my house on Saturday.
Oh, look at that. You see? Woo, woo, woo. That's fantastic. So they're at her house. Okay. Thank you so much. So yeah, if you have an event at your home, then the candidates will show up. And like I said, I'll try to show up if I can. And the only reason I wasn't at Jessica's is because I was out of town. Some of y'all may know that my dad was diagnosed just recently with advanced lung cancer. So I'm going to be involved taking care of my dad right now. And that's another reason why, like, it's just really hard to pull these big meetings together. So yes, if people can step up, let's get this going at this grassroots level. And I want to tell you this real quick. If you get pushback from your neighbors, wait, Moms for Liberty, those book banners, you know, all these lies that they're hearing. If anyone brings up the book banning stuff, just remember, if one of the arguments they'll say is that
Did Moms for Liberty just admit that they're book banning? Because it was my understanding that Moms for Liberty wasn't even allowed to call it book banning. Did Moms for Liberty actually just admit that they're book banning? Now listen, for those who might be new to me, my issue with Moms for Liberty and the book banning bullshit is that it doesn't actually go far enough. First of all, for people who are confused about this, the book banning bullshit is a way to keep the right constantly chasing their tail so that they don't actually accomplish anything. Because here's how the left works. The left has dozens of socialist-specific book publishers that are constantly churning out book after book after book after book after book. It takes weeks or months for Moms for Liberty to ban one single book from a school library. In that time, this is just an analogy, but I'm saying like maybe this isn't like an exact, but this is effectively what happens. While Moms for Liberty is focused on getting one single book out of the school library, the left has made 5 more books to replace that book with. So even if you get that book pulled out of the library, the left is just going to replace it with books that you don't know about. And then you got to figure it out all over again. You figure out what offensive books are we going to be offended by now. And then we have to go through the week or month-long process to get one single book banned. And in the meantime, the left just replaces it with more. So the book banning bullshit that Moms for Liberty has been engaged in, literally raised tens of millions of dollars doing, does not accomplish anything. It literally doesn't change anything. Because they can high-five and celebrate getting one book out of the classroom all they want. All they're really doing is playing a giant game of whack-a-mole that will literally never end. And while they're playing this giant game of whack-a-mole, they are not doing anything else of value. I would debate James Lindsay in a heartbeat. James Lindsay doesn't have the balls to debate me. I would debate James Lindsay any fucking where, as long as I get to play video clips from real leftist trainings as evidence, because James refuses to watch that shit, and that's how I operate. So if people want me to debate him, I will do it anytime, I'll do it anywhere. My only stipulation is I get to play video clips from real leftist trainings. And that really shouldn't be a problem. James should want people to see what the left is doing. So I'm not afraid to debate him. He is afraid to debate me. So, this book banning bullshit from Moms for Liberty doesn't actually go far enough. What I want to do, and Kazmar said, I'm being generous. I'm being generous when I say it takes weeks or months to get a book ban. I'm being really generous. You're right about that. Because most of the time, it takes closer to a year to get one single book banned. This is why Moms for Liberty is playing a game that they will never, ever, 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 ever win. They are playing a game that will not impact what's being taught in schools. While Moms for Liberty is chasing whatever next book they're going to complain about to raise money, the left is just churning out more and more books, and the left is getting further into the curriculum. The left is actually, like, they're making more advances in terms of taking over the K-12 schools, solidifying their advantage there. All the while, the right is kept constantly fucking distracted by Moms for Liberty. Now, my position is I don't think Moms for Liberty goes far enough. What I want to do, and this is actually really my position, is I believe the only solution to this problem is bonfires. I think we need to bring back bonfires. Here's what Moms for Liberty really should be doing. Moms for Liberty should be going into every school library, every public library, and taking every fucking queer Marxist book off the shelf and burning it in a fucking bonfire on the front lawn. I'm serious when I say this. If Moms for Liberty actually cared about this, bonfires are needed to solve the problem. I'm talking every fucking book. Every book that mentions queer fucking anything. And then what I want to do is I want to actually prohibit the future publication of these books. I want a 10-year moratorium on publishing anything related to queer theory. So I want to burn all the current queer theory books, and I don't want any more books published. And if any teachers try to teach this shit, I want to put them in jail. I want to put them in re-education camp. That's what actually needs to be done. That is what is actually required to solve this problem. Anyone pretending the Moms for Liberty is going to do shit is just not reality. Rottweiler said, everyone greet autumn with a loud and resounding hail yes. Everyone greet autumn. Autumn is a socialist, not the national socialist variety, a real socialist. Thanks, I'm Jack, for the super sticker. I really do appreciate it. Let's see. Let me update our total here. Anyway, that's what I think of Moms for Liberty and book banning.
Children need to see themselves in books that they read. So what you say to that is, well, if children are seeing themselves in these types of books that we would like to get out of schools, then they've been sexually molested. Just remember that, okay? Really? That's where we're going? We want kids to recognize that, see themselves as being raped or whatever. And then the other thing is this is a great argument to say, we're not allowed to show rated R movies in schools. And you cannot show sexually explicit videos and you can play that type of music in schools, right? So why would we allow these books? So just remember that, and then you just have to ignore the lies, and the lies are never going to stop because the media is on their side, right?
Moms for Liberty is like, hey guys, hey, do you know that bad videos are bad? And if bad videos are bad, then bad books are bad. So don't believe the lies the media tells about us, guys, because bad books are bad. Do you really think this is what's going to beat the left? Is anyone under any delusion that this is what is going to beat the left? Please, guys, can't everyone see that bad books are bad and that bad videos are bad? Can't we all agree that bad things are bad?
It's never going to stop. So
it's never going to stop, all right.
Our truth, and the truth will prevail. Because I know y'all have seen where a few people have just received cease and desist and maybe a lawsuit for running their mouth, and I'm telling you, they're dropping like flies. So we just keep steady, joyful warriors. Just keep speaking your truth and spread it, y'all. Spread it like wildfires like we did in 2022. Because we have got to keep Ed Kelly on this board to keep the majority. Okay? Because I'm going to say this, and I'm going to let them say a few words before James speaks. Gets up here. The 3 school board candidates, because just remember this, y'all. I know there was a little rocky start in the beginning because none of them had ever run for anything before. Okay, but now the 5, the majority, they're rocking and rolling. We have a wonderful superintendent, Anita Huggins, and we need candidates that want to work with her, that want to support her. And so I know that these 3 districts, their opponents are against Anita, and that we cannot
Hey, thanks, Lavender Mama. I appreciate you.
And then raises, $8,000 raises this year. That's incredible because they're managing the budget better. That's really good. And don't forget the EL. Do you remember the horrible ELA curriculum that was just saturated with critical race theory? We worked so hard to get that out of our schools, and thank God we had the majority.
I will bet you all the money in my bank account that this woman has no idea what critical race theory even is. Listen, I'm sure she means well, but I would bet you that this woman cannot define critical race theory to save her life. Maybe I'm wrong.
So they can vote it out and vote in Common Core, which, by the way, that is where's Mike Lyons? I mean core knowledge. Core knowledge. See, I'm joke. Not to be confused with Common Core, which is why we think the Democrats voted for it, because they voted for the core knowledge. Mike Lyons is here somewhere. He used to be chairman of up in Connecticut on his board of ed, and the stats in his district changed drastically when they implemented core knowledge. So guess what? CCSD has core knowledge now. It's fantastic. Okay, let's move on to our keynote speaker. So, okay, James Lindsay, an American author, mathematician, and professional troublemaker. Dr. James Lindsay has written 10 books spanning a range of subjects including education, Marxism, and postmodern theory. He is a leading expert on critical race theory, which leads him to reject it completely. He is the founder of New Disclosures and currently promoting his new book, The Queering of
New Disclosures now. New Disclosures is the name of James's company now. Okay. Wrong, incorrect. That's all right.
Of the American Child and his documentary film, Beneath Sheep's Clothing. He has spoken all over the world, including in the Library of Congress, outside the United Nations headquarters in Geneva, at the Oxford Union, and in the European Union Parliament. And I know you're leaving tomorrow for Korea, right? He travels a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so blessed to have him again. We love you, James. James Lindsay.
I gotta start a stopwatch for your safety. You didn't want to spend the night. Thank you guys so much for coming. I am always thrilled to be in Charleston, so I was thrilled when Tara invited me again. It's one of my favorite places to come. I think it's like the 4th or 5th time I've had the pleasure of coming down. Turns out y'all have good food. You do a pretty good bridge too, it turns out. It's really nice. Actually, I really do love coming here though, and it's really exciting. And what she said is true. I am leaving in the morning to fly to Korea to speak. That's my next talk. And so, actually, it's kind of an interesting thing because what I want to tell you, I mean, we just heard it, actually. We literally just heard it. But we're in an interesting moment. I've been going around, all over the place, telling people that in a very real sense, now obviously we've got this wicked election coming up, but in a very real sense, we're standing at the turning of the tide. I mean, Joe Biden called it an inflection point.
One in the chat if you think that we are standing on the precipice of the turning of the tide. 2 in the chat if you think that the only people who think that we are standing at the turning of the tide are paid shills that are propping up a political narrative. 1 in the chat if it's about to change, guys. We're winning. 2 in the chat if you think that James is full of shit. There's a lot of 2s in my chat. A lot of 2s. No, James. No. We are not standing at any turning of the tide, James. And listen, I wish I was wrong about this. I wish I was wrong, but I am actually hinged into reality, unlike James, and my audience is actually hinged into reality, unlike James. And because we're hinged into reality, we know that we're winning is one of the biggest lies that's being told on the right now. We are not winning. We are not winning in any way. Nope, we're not winning in any way. Nope. We're getting our asses kicked. We're getting our asses kicked badly. And one of the reasons we're getting our asses kicked so fucking badly is because people like James are lying to people and making them believe things are happening that are not happening.
Point in history, and he said that a lot hangs on this election because we don't know which way it's going to go. And he's right. It is an inflection point in history. But as far as this ideology, this Marxist ideology, this evolved, mutated communism that's designed to take down our children and our society goes, the public is giving up on it very quickly. In fact, the public is turning on it very quickly. And you're hearing, you guys have had such tremendous success here fighting back in South Carolina that Tara and I were talking. I said, Tara, what do you want me to talk about? And she said,
yeah, isn't it funny? I thought this... Has James been talking about this as a mutated form of Marxism? I know he's called it Marxism with American characteristics. I've never heard James call it mutated before. The reason that I ask why if James has actually called it mutated before is that we recently started calling it mutated, not in the same way that James is calling it mutated. Hey, human centipede, you know what James Lindsay just said? Did you hear it? James says that we're dealing with a mutated form of Marxism, human centipede. Isn't that funny? Don't you find that language funny? Let's listen again.
Very quickly. And you're hearing, you guys have had such tremendous success here fighting back in South Carolina that Tara and I were talking.
I didn't go back far enough. Sorry. again.
It's going to go, and he's right. It is an inflection point in history. But as far as this ideology, this Marxist ideology, this evolved, mutated communism that's designed to take...
This evolved, mutated communism. Where'd you get that line, James? When'd you start calling it a mutated form of communism, James? Did you start calling it that before or after we started calling it gain-of-function Marxism and explaining that the form of Marxism that we're dealing with in the United States today is mutated from the original philosophy? What an original idea, James. What an original idea. Wherever did that idea come from? Yeah, he's always, I have never heard James say the term mutated. Isn't that funny? I'm already starting to wonder how much of Carlin's work is going to show up in this. Yeah, me too. That's why I wanted to watch this. Copy my answers, but change it just a little bit so that the teacher doesn't notice. We see you, James. We see you.
Down our children and our society goes, the public is giving up on it very quickly. In fact, the public is turning on it very quickly. And you're hearing, you guys have had such tremendous success here fighting back in South Carolina that Tara and I were talking. I said, Tara, what do you want me to talk about? And she said, well, just say everything Tara said is right. And that's really what she said, kind of. She said, reiterate these points and about, you know, about how important it is to back these candidates for the school board, how important it is to stay active, to stay involved. So everything she said, but she also told me that, I was telling her, I said, well, you know, it's really exciting with Moms for Liberty right now. I was just with the national founder, Tiffany Justice, literally over the weekend. I spoke in Chicago and I spoke in...
Boo! Everyone boo Tiffany Justice. Tiffany Justice is an evil cunt. Boo. Shame.
Nashville over the weekend, and I came here on Monday. My wife saw me for a few hours in between, and Tiffany is thrilled. And then there's a representative there that's from Illinois, one of the chapter chairs up there that's doing wonderful things, and there's one from Wisconsin that's doing wonderful things. That's Shannon Adcock and Scarlett Johnson, if you wonder what their names are. And it turns out their enthusiasm was through the roof, because I don't know, some of you will.
When did he do this? He said that in 2020. Okay, so maybe James. Okay. We have to give credit where credit is due. If James has legitimately been saying that it's been mutated since 2020, all right. If James ever uses the term gain-of-function Marxism, though, then we're gonna have a problem. If James ever references the Mary Nardini gang, I'm going to explode like you've never seen me explode in my life. But you know what? Listen, if he actually said that in 2020, then credit where credit is due. We retract, James. We retract. It's just that you've stolen so much of my work, James, and pretended that it was yours, that you can imagine why we might jump the gun. But unlike James, we fact check. James has had one singular mention of mutation on Twitter. All right.
Heard that there was a Supreme Court decision recently about this Title IX rewrite, and it's not all it's cracked up to be, but it's good. It's a big step in the right direction. But before that, a significant court issued a full, very broad scope preliminary injunction against the Title IX rewrite that extends to every school that has a child whose parents are a member of Moms for Liberty. They were the plaintiffs, and that's who it extends to. And it turns out, I'm telling Tara about this, and as I'm telling her that in Illinois and Wisconsin and across the country, talking to those three women, Scarlett and Shannon and Tiffany, what I learned is across the country right now, Moms for Liberty is experiencing an incredible boom, because it turns out that the injunction is written in such a way that if somebody makes a Moms for Liberty chapter here now, after the court decision, it still applies to them and their kids. So people are signing up for Moms for Liberty at a rate right now so fast that they can't even process the applications for chapter chairs. It's the biggest explosion in growth that they've had since the beginning. Meanwhile, Scarlett and Shannon were telling me, and Tiffany echoed it from her experience at the national level, that in their local communities in Wisconsin and Illinois, the attitude toward Moms for Liberty basically flipped like a switch overnight. It went from, oh, Moms for Liberty, slander, lie, trash talk, bad. Of course, the left is still saying this, somewhat. But all of a sudden, all of the people who were silent and afraid to speak up have come out of the woodwork. Oh, thank you, can we join? And they've had something like a 25% increase in membership across Wisconsin just in a couple of weeks because of this. I'm telling Tara this, she's like, what? That's not happening. What? South Carolina? Turns out you guys already have laws. Your Attorney General, if I got that right, your Attorney General stood up and said, heck no, that's not happening. This rewriting Title IX is not happening to South Carolinians, and already defended you. So you guys are in such a lucky state that your Attorney General did it statewide and you don't have to have this preliminary injunction, but you missed out on the enthusiasm in terms of the Moms for Liberty is changing the world, literally changing the lives of children all over the country in states that don't have such great attorneys general. So Moms for Liberty is on the ascendant. We have excellent people fighting back, standing directly in the gap between this ideology and your children. And make no mistake, this ideology is after your children. And I honestly think, I travel this country, I travel all over North America, I travel around the world, sometimes not as much as it sounds like I do. And this is changing very quickly. I'm going to Korea tomorrow to speak for a group called Build Up Korea, because the organizers of that entity are trying to train Korean youth to reject woke before it takes over Korea. It's not there yet. So we're bringing in Americans. In this case, I'm speaking with some nobody called Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah, we started using the term gain-of-function Marxism before he did, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure. And also, Logan Lansing isn't even using that term in the same way that we're using it. Logan Lansing isn't even using it properly. Logan Lansing doesn't even understand what queer theory is. So, if Logan Lansing wants to have a hissy fit, whatever. Logan Lansing has literally copied my designs from my merch store. I'm not gonna bend the knee to his bullshit.
To try to train up Korean youth in, actually, literally, American values, to resist woke, to understand what woke is and understand what liberty and freedom are, and what the values of those are, and where they come from in our country, and what we stand for. And so it's all very exciting. We're at the turning of the tide of this monstrosity. Of course, the institutions, and very in particular the schools, are not quite coming along with us yet, and certainly the Democratic Party. I'll just point out, by the way, the Democratic Party, I want to point out something that our Madam Vice President, to whom I'm very grateful at the moment, by the way, I'll explain in a minute. Madam Vice President yesterday stood up and she gave her allegedly inspiring speech at the DNC, and one of the things she said was that what unites them on their side is not a commitment to the founding principles of America, but a shared vision of America's future, which turns out to be straight out of Karl Marx.
And James Lindsay has just called Kamala Harris a communist! Didn't we see that coming? Kamala Harris's vision for the future is right out of Karl Marx, James. Kamala Harris's husband did a campaign rally where he literally said that Kamala Harris is pro-capitalism. When far-left radical activists showed up at Kamala Harris's rally, Kamala Harris told them to fuck off. So why is it, James? Why is it that real Marxists, real socialists, are not voting for Kamala Harris, are overtly denouncing Kamala Harris, are protesting Kamala Harris? Kamala Harris is telling them to fuck off. How can you possibly, with a straight face, make the argument that Kamala Harris is a socialist when real socialists don't like her, aren't going to vote for her, protest her all the time, give presentations at conferences about how much she sucks? We just watched one of those presentations yesterday. How can you say she's a socialist when she's overtly announcing that she supports capitalism, James? Makes no sense.
In his 18th premiere, Louis Bonaparte, he talks about how the social revolutions of the 19th century, by which he means the Marxist revolutions, have to draw their inspiration, he says, from the future, not from the past. So she's not committing to the principles of America, and she said so on this stage. She's instead committing to a shared vision for a new future for this country, which would be saying that we're going to be able to see what can be unburdened by what has been. Which is the beating heart of Marxist ideology, and I went viral. You can look up my video on that. I'm not going to repeat it all for you here, maybe.
I went viral on Twitter for talking about this, guys.
Yes, ma'am. So I get all the time, by the way, saying in the airports, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, or whatever. People say, are you in the military? And I say, no. Unlike Governor Walz, I don't steal valor. I say, no, I'm just Southern. And so, okay, so.
We're only 15 minutes into this speech, and James is already trotting out every GOP-approved talking point. Everyone can hear this, right? By the way, James Lindsay has denounced Lauren Chen repeatedly. Michael O'Fallon denounced Lauren Chen because she disagrees with him on things. It's just like, one of my main arguments against James is he is paid to shill a political narrative that is not grounded in reality at all. And it's just like, 15 minutes in, all of us are getting stupider from this presentation. Because it's just GOP talking point, GOP talking. It's almost like, guys, you know what it's like? It's almost like James is being sent a list of approved talking points from the Trump campaign and from the Republican Party, and then all he does is say those talking points. It's almost, maybe it's like James is being paid by organizations to say the things that those organizations want him to say, to sell a political narrative to the public, and that James will never deviate from those talking points.
I already told you the key from Marx's 18th Brumaire of Louis Bonaparte, that unburdened by what can, they're able to see what can be unburdened by what has been is a Marxist theme. But it comes up again and again and again and again and again. It actually is going to segue into the school, so this actually works. You can find it in the Communist Manifesto. If you read the first paragraph of the Communist Manifesto and compare it to the last paragraph of the main body of that, there's a bunch of appendices where he rants about people he doesn't like. But there's a main body that ends. And if you read the first and last paragraph, it's basically the same thing. History is.
Hey, James, when you were reading the Communist Manifesto, did you happen to read that sentence where Karl Marx says that communism can be summed up in one single sentence, the abolition of private property? Who wants one in the chat if you think that James is going to say the word capitalism or private property in this presentation? 2 in the chat if you think that James is not going to say either the word capitalism or the term private property in this presentation. He's the one bringing up the Communist Manifesto. The Communist Manifesto very literally says that communism can be summed up in one sentence, the abolition of private property. So is James going to say the term capitalism or the term private property in this presentation? 1 in the chat if you think James is going to say capitalism and private property. 2 in the chat if you think that James is not going to say those terms. It's an awful lot of 2s in the chat, Jimmy. Awful lot of 2s in the chat. We're going full Gnostic today. Yep. They will vote for no one. By the way, you know who else is going to vote for no one? People like me. I'm not voting for Trump. A lot of people I know aren't voting for Trump. Trump is a fucking moderate Democrat. So don't give yourself a high five and feel like you accomplished anything.
Made through the conflict of antagonistic classes, and the point of this is that we're going to do away with the way that the past was so that we can move forward into a new future that we can imagine. And you see it in his explanation of communism that he puts in his economic philosophic manuscripts. You see it in Mao Zedong's Smash the World campaign during the Cultural Revolution. I actually have a poster somebody sent me from the Maoist era, from the Shanghai Red Guard, and it actually says, which sounds a little bit less like like Kamala than like something else, but it says, smash the old world, build the new world, and it shows a communist swinging a big hammer at probably religious icons or something.
What does that mean, James? What does it mean to smash the old world, build the new world? What does that actually mean? What does that entail? Are you ever going to teach people this, James? What does it... Pop quiz for my chat. Let's see if you guys know more than James Lindsay does. What do communists mean when they say they are going to smash the old world and build the new world? What do they mean when they say that? How can you have a serious conversation about communism and not mention private property or capitalism? That's a really great question, Human Centipede. What do communists mean when they say they are going to smash the old world and build a new world? They mean they're going to abolish capitalism and bring in socialism. They mean they're going to abolish capitalism. They mean they're going to abolish capitalism. The old world is private property. The new world is no private property. Does that mean getting rid of capitalism, James? They mean they're going to abolish capitalism. Capitalism means abolishing all private property to usher in a new world based on equity. It means they're going to abolish capitalism. It means they're going to overthrow the bourgeois, who is the capitalist class. Building a new world means ushering in the Marxist utopia. You usher in the Marxist utopia by abolishing capitalism. Abolishing capitalism, ushering in the Marxist utopia. Abolish capitalism and private property, bring in the communist utopia. For James and his agenda, the old world means Western culture. Well, that's not what we're talking about, though. That might be what James means. But Marxists mean get rid of capitalism. They mean to liberate us from private property. They mean to abolish capitalism and all freedom and rights, which of course are private property under capitalism. Abolish capitalism and take over with socialism. That's what they mean. Will James say the term capitalism in this entire presentation?
Or whatever, and smashing a pile of rubble. But it sounds like, smash the old world and build back better, as it turns out, which is exactly what that is. And that's, of course, the Great Leap.
Are you shitting me? James can't tell people that smashing the old world means abolishing capitalism and private property, but he can say, guys, it means they're going to build back better, which was one of Biden's slogans. So James can say that it's a Biden slogan, but he can't explain what Marxists mean by that. Build Back Better wasn't a Marxist slogan, James. It was a Democratic Party establishment slogan.
Forward, right? That's the slogan that they're using this year, forward. Turns out the first periodical that Lenin published was called Forward in Russian. The first periodical that Mussolini published when he took off with the fascist movement was called Avanti, which is forward in Italian. Isn't that something? Yeah. The word forward in Chinese, which is like Qinghai or something like that, appears on like every single one of their big propaganda posters. Because Marxism is a religion that believes it is moving forward to the destiny of man, which is to enter the Garden of Eden again on his own terms by building it around himself.
Guys, when communists say that they want to smash the old world and bring in the new world, they don't mean abolish capitalism and private property ownership. They mean build a new Garden of Eden on their own terms around themselves. Yup. James just went full retard. Here we go. Here we go. Here comes the Gnosticism. Let's just listen to that again. That was so fucking beautiful.
Posters. Because Marxism is a religion that believes it is moving forward to the destiny of man, which is to enter the Garden of Eden again on his own terms by building it around himself. And that can only happen by transforming who we are, to have what some Marxists call a qualitative change in human nature, which of course isn't going to work. And that's why it never works. It's not a failed economic system, it's a failed religion. And it's coming after your soul. But it turns out
Guys, Marxism isn't coming after your private property. It's not coming after your home, your land, your apartment rentals, your private businesses, your intellectual property, your parental rights, your individual liberties. It's not coming after any of that. Marxism is coming after your soul. Bruh. He needs a rhetoric for the God-fearing wine moms. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. And Moms for Liberty will nod along and they're like, yes, yes, James. Yes. We are in a battle of good versus evil, James. Guide us, James. Guide us, James, in this religious battle. We are on the side of God, James. Guide us in this religious battle against the demonic entity, James. Guide us against the evil Gnostics. We've entered into a Gnostic horror movie. It's coming for our soul. Should I make a t-shirt that says communism is coming for your soul? I kind of want to. Communism is coming for, and I'm gonna have like Karl Marx is like this is gonna be, I'll do a Halloween special edition t-shirt. This is what it's gonna be. It's gonna be a Halloween special edition t-shirt with Marx dressed up like the Grim Reaper, and he's gonna have a giant staff. He's gonna be floating. It's gonna say, "Coming for your soul." Halloween special edition. Souls are private property under capital. Well, you laugh, but yeah, that actually is kind of probably true. Yeah. Oh God, should we make a shirt of James holding a Bible looking like a crazy preacher? We'll say, to James's impending conversion.
Can capture adult souls. It does capture adult souls, but it's easier to get kids. And so I published a book earlier this year called The Queering of the American Child, just in the same line of able to see what can be, unburdened by what has been. One of the quotes we put in this book, which is about queer theory in education, which I know that's two things I'm going to have to unpack a little bit for you. Queer theory...
I'm very sorry, bro. I'm very sorry, but only literal retards believe this. Okay, let's ask the chat. One in the chat, if you think I would kick James's ass in a debate and it wouldn't even be close. Two in the chat, if you agree with Daniel here and that James would mop the floor with me in a debate. One in the chat, if I would kick James's ass in a debate and that's why he's afraid to debate me. Two in the chat, if you agree with Daniel. Let me know. No, 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 no. We are not both right. No. Marxism is the abolition of private property. That's what the abolishing capitalism means. These things matter. Words matter. Definitions matter. James doesn't get to make up some sort of fucking religious argument to appeal to Moms for Liberty wine mobs, and then everyone goes, yes, you can both be right. No, we're not both right. We are not both right. What James is saying is not reflected in the real world at all. He is making shit up. Yeah, there's a lot of ones in the chat. Lot of ones in the chat there, Daniel. Lot of ones in the chat. I don't even think I would have to prep for a debate against James. And since Daniel is clearly only here to cause problems and not here to learn anything, Daniel, you can take a walk, bro. Enjoy your ban. Goodbye. We don't need to hear from you anymore. We have voted Daniel off the island, and we don't need his input anymore.
In education, but they have this relatively famous queer theorist named Jose Esteban Munoz, and he actually says queerness is not here yet. Queerness is a horizon. We cannot yet touch queerness. Hopefully one day we can. But, you know,
okay. So James is saying that this guy is saying queerness is not here yet. We cannot touch queerness. Pop quiz for my chat. Why isn't queerness here yet? When this scholar, quoted by James, says queerness isn't here yet, what does he mean? Why isn't queerness here yet? I know we're stopping a lot, but it's our job to debunk James. We got to do a good, thorough job of this. What does this person mean when they say queerness is not here yet? Queer means Marxism. Real Marxism isn't here yet. Queerness is not here yet because we haven't abolished capitalism yet. Excellent answer, Kenneth. Queerness is not here because we have not abolished capitalism yet. No. No. So was it you that was discussing the image of Karl Marx smiling on the... Yeah, Von Cassidy, the image of Marx smiling on a mountain of skulls that says real Marxism means that Marxism will lead to the death of millions of people. That's happened in the real world. That's not a religious argument. I'm not saying that Gnosticism is a religion. That Marxism is a religion. I'm saying that Marxism kills millions of people. That's what that image means. It is not a religious argument. If you thought it was a religious argument, you were mistaken. I have never made any sort of religious or spiritual argument about Marxism because Marxists don't make this argument. This is something that is entirely 100% made up by James. And the only people who believe this argument are people who buy into James's bullshit. Queer is not here because the gender binary has not yet been abolished. That's a good answer. Queer is not here because we still have hierarchies. There's still hierarchies. That is a good answer. Because the binary is still dominant. That's a good answer. Queer is not here yet because we're not all free from normativity of capitalism. That's a good answer. The revolution has not yet been fulfilled. We are all still under the boot of capitalism. Good answer. Capitalism hasn't yet been abolished. That's why queer isn't here yet. Mary Nardini Gang says that queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. Queer is a far left political ideology. Communism hasn't been realized yet. Queer means socialist utopia. They haven't abolished capitalism yet. Excellent, excellent. We haven't overthrown capitalism. The binary still exists. Binary, exactly. You guys know what the answer is. Nope. No. Queerness is not perpetual. I mean, well, you know, it isn't, I guess gold becoming, I kind of see where you're going with this, so I'm going to throw you a bone. I see where you're going with this in that, in theory, if we do overthrow capitalism, then Marxism becomes the norm of society, and therefore queer would be against the norm. But it's kind of like, it kind of remains to be seen how they would actually handle that. It's an outstanding question for me. But, point taken. I'm not going to poo-poo it entirely. Capitalism is still here, therefore queer has not been achieved yet. Moms for Liberty probably needs to be educated to recognize all these. Well, yeah, Moms for Liberty isn't going to be educated because they listen to James. What's your thought of the gifts capitalism ushers in communism? I'm not sure I understand your question, Ethan. Why does James think he understands religion so can speak to churches? Tell them how to run their churches? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Anyway, let's keep going.
This is a horizon. We cannot yet touch queerness. Hopefully one day we can. But, we've got all of this problem with the current existing set of norms and expectations in society, values in society we have to overcome first. So in other words, queerness means being able to see what can be, which I think looks like a drag queen unburdened by what has been.
Queerness actually means trying to undermine normativity, which means undermining and liberating people from capitalism, James. That's what queer means. The goal of queer Marxism is to abolish the gender binary, which will inherently abolish the nuclear family. They want the abolition of the nuclear family because they think that the nuclear family upholds capitalism through social reproduction theory. That's what queer actually means, James. Why aren't you explaining this to people?
And I am doing very much the Solway et Coagula hand motion that Kamala does every time for whatever weird reason. If you don't know what Solway et Coagula means, it's what's tattooed on Baphomet's arms. It means dissolve and coagulate, or dissolve and remake, or build back better. On the famous statue. And I don't know why she always raises her one hand and she puts her other hand down while she does it, but
no, instead of saying that queer is about abolishing the nuclear family, James goes into a whole diatribe explaining Kamala Harris's hand movements. Because obviously Kamala Harris's hand movements are more important to people than what queer theory is actually trying to do, which is to abolish the nuclear fucking family.
She sure does. It's really peculiar. So thank you, by the way, Madam Vice President and Governor Walz. I'm not kidding. I'm grateful to them for putting communism on the ballot. And communism in the dead center of a national conversation that should have started 5 years ago, but we all got mocked, we got made fun of, we got called conspiracy theorists, we got told we don't know what communism is, we got told we don't understand Marxism for 5 years.
James, you still don't fucking know what communism is. You're giving a whole fucking speech about communism. You haven't defined communism 101, James. You still don't know what it is. And I'm not some part of some leftist fucking conspiracy or some fucking funded organization that's coordinating to take you down, James. By the way, James has really said that about my audience. James said that my audience was a coordinated effort to undermine him. And then it's our job to take him down. Well, it is in some respects because you're lying to people.
Years, but we were right. So thank you for finally proving us out and letting us start this conversation, wherever you are out there, Madam Vice President. Thank you. Evil. I was talking.
No, abolishing the nuclear family is a necessity to abolishing capitalism. You cannot abolish capitalism without you need to come to more of my streams. You're a member on my channel. I appreciate your super chat from earlier. Abolishing the nuclear family is a necessity to abolishing capitalism. You cannot abolish capitalism without abolishing the nuclear family. This is what the left believes. They believe that the nuclear family is the literal means of production of capitalism. Every time the left says that they want to control the means of production, they're not talking about the factories, they're not talking about the machinery, they're talking about the people. The people come from the nuclear family. They believe that capitalism created the gender binary, which put men in the workplace doing the work and making all the money. They put women in the home during the unpaid labor of having and raising the next generation of proletarian workers. The next group of oppressed workers comes in the nuclear family. That's what having kids is. You are repopulating the oppressed proletarian population without disrupting the nuclear family, which intrinsically raises kids in capitalism. This is called social reproduction theory. You cannot abolish capitalism. Social reproduction theory says that social systems will reproduce themselves until they are disrupted. If they don't abolish the nuclear family, they don't abolish capitalism. No, James has never said that. He has never said that. That's not true. He's never said it. We've looked into this. James has never said that. James claims he has talked about the problem of reproduction, but he has never talked about it in connection with the nuclear family. We looked into this. He talked about the problem of reproduction in relation to the schools, but not in relation to the nuclear family.
Talking with Eric Metaxas the other day, and he said, Satan, by definition, is foolish, and so evil will always out itself. It will always make a mistake, because it is by definition a fool.
It's about
and
Satan,
so I think that we see that on display. They're calling it joy this year.
That's so funny.
So, queer theory in education, what an unholy marriage. This is the ideology that you have to stand in the way of. And what you have behind you, if you're standing facing it to fight, is your children. And it's called queer theory. Like, just the words should be like bubbling around in your head like something's badly wrong here. So I'll just briefly tell you what queer theory is, and I'll briefly tell you how it got into education, which is...
Yes, James, please define queer theory for us. Please tell us what you believe queer theory is.
What the book is about. I encourage you to read it. If you've read some of my other books, by the way, I didn't actually write the majority of this book. My writing partner, Logan Lansing, did, and he writes a lot easier than...
By the way, Logan Lansing bragged openly about the fact that he didn't mention capitalism in his book about queer theory.
I do, so it's easy. It's the easiest book I've ever published in terms of how it reads. It's easy to read. Teenagers can read it and follow it, no problem. Adults can read it and follow it, no problem. I keep hearing how easy it is to read, so I encourage you, if you want to know about this, to check that out. But what's queer theory? So queer theory is a deranged version of Marxism that uses, rather than economic status as the dividing line in society, it uses literally being normal as the dividing line in society.
What does that mean, James? What does normativity mean? He's not wrong about that, but let's see where he goes.
It comes along and it says, well, some people have declared themselves to be normal based on some self-serving definition, and they've excluded everybody else from...
Some self-serving definition. James, normativity is defined as whatever upholds capitalism or private property ownership or individualism. That's what normativity is, James. It's whatever upholds capitalism, private property ownership, individualism, meritocracy, which all uphold individualism and meritocracy uphold capitalism. I'm repeating myself, but I'm being a little bit more specific. It's not some self-serving definition. It means that normativity means capitalism. Capitalism is the norm. They believe our society is built around capitalism. They believe that the United States government is the capitalist U.S. government. That is what they are trying to overthrow. The Mary Nardini gang, which essentially wrote the Queer Marxism Manifesto back in the 90s, it's called Towards the Queerest Insurrection, we've read it on this channel, said that queer liberation is means the annihilation of capitalism. If you listen to any queer anarchy literature, which is where queer Marxism comes from, it comes from queer anarcho-communist subculture. They say over and over and over and over and over again that this is about capitalism. And we're going to do some deep dives into queer anarchy next week. So if people don't believe me, I've already done some deep dives into queer anarchy. We're going to do a whole fucking week on queer anarchy. Because James can suck a dick. If he doesn't want to say the word capitalism, fine. Then I'll do it. I'll fucking do it. I will show people what real queer anarchists say and what they write and how they teach each other, because James can't be bothered. Sorry, your work is ignored. Yeah, well, it's not ignored. The thing is, my work isn't ignored. My work is found by people who want the truth. Do I have a Turning Point USA Moms for Liberty funded platform? No, I don't. No, I don't. But I've got you guys, and we can still make some noise. And believe me when I tell you that people do listen to what we do, and we are pushing on this conversation, and people are hearing it, and a lot of people are tired of James's bullshit. Thanks, Tainton. Appreciate it.
Normalcy, according to that definition, so that they can have privilege in society and oppress the others. Marx, on the first paragraph, by the way, of the Communist Manifesto, says that all of history is the history of contending classes, class antagonism, class warfare from one class to another. And he gives a huge list of possible class antagonisms, and then he finishes with, in a word, oppressor versus oppressed. So this is just a remaking of oppressor versus oppressed, where people who think of themselves as normal, as in not queer, or freaks, or deviants, or perverts, or worse.
Here's where James is going to start pushing the groomer bullshit. Queer Marxism isn't about sexualizing kids, guys. It's not. It's just not. Real Marxists, real socialists, I've actually heard them say this. They say openly they want to protect kids from this stuff. That's not to say it doesn't happen, because there are always bad apples in every bunch, but that's not the goal of what queer theory is. The end goal is the Marxist utopia. The four goals of the woke left are always the same. Gain as much power as possible, destabilize the system, attack capitalism, usher in their Marxist utopia. They absolutely have a fucking idea. You're the one that doesn't have a fucking idea. You know how I know they have an idea? I've laid out what they mean by their Marxist utopia on my Substack. I've done videos about what they mean by their Marxist utopia. You can literally go to my Substack and read about it. Saying they have no fucking idea, that's a conservative talking point. I'm really disappointed with you. You've got to start coming to more streams. You're shilling a conservative talking point that they don't know, they don't know, they don't know. They do know. They're explicit about this. They say it all the time. I've literally done multiple videos breaking this down. I've written multiple articles breaking this down. So go to the Substack, start reading the content, start coming to more streams, and I'll show you, but you got to stop shilling conservative talking points. You got to stop buying into this bullshit. It's not real.
That's the line. So the people who think of themselves as normal are oppressors by the virtue of the fact that they have defined normal to mean themselves. And the people who are excluded by that are therefore oppressed by the very concept of normalcy and decency in society. Also, legitimacy. The actual definition of queer was given by David Halperin in 1995 in a book called Saint Foucault, which lionizes the postmodern philosopher and pedophile Michel Foucault. And the definition of queer is that queer is whatever is at odds with the normal, the legitimate, and the dominant.
True. True. Halprin did say queer is at odds with whatever is the normal, the legitimate, the dominant. James, what do you think he means by that? The normal, the legitimate, the dominant means capitalism. It means the capitalist class. It means the bourgeois. It means the private property owner. That's what that means. There is no other definition of that. That's who they believe is the oppressor class. Dominant means bourgeois. Bourgeois means private property owner. Private property ownership is the definition that they have of capitalism. Bolsheviks, RCA, yeah, this is another important point. There are absolutely a lot of socialists out there who do hate queer Marxists, so they don't think that queer Marxists are real Marxists. That is true, Rottweiler. Thank you. Oh, shit. Hang on.
Whatever is at odds. He says that it is a purely oppositional position. He starts that paragraph by saying, the first three words of that paragraph are unlike gay identity. Because he says gay identity, though we don't know
So he is distinguishing between gay and queer. Got it.
what it is rooted in something to do with reality. He calls it a positive fact. And then he says that queer is not based on any positive truth or any stable reality. It is purely oppositional position. Position is a fancy word that means politics. It's the political position you take. And it is to be opposed to normalcy and legitimacy. We can throw out dominant because they think everything they don't like is dominance. So that's redundant for them.
So we're just throwing out one of the words that's not convenient. James is like, don't worry about that word that's in the specific definition. We just can get rid of that. We don't have to worry about that word. James is literally cherry picking right in front of us. Let me only take the things that back up the narrative that I want to sell to the wine moms. We're going to ignore everything else.
What that means is, it's not possible to be a queer person. Every time they told you that this is about queer children or queer people being able to see themselves in a book or whatever else, there's no such...
What? James thinks it's not possible to be a queer person? For those of you who have watched queer Marxist presentations with me, does the left believe that it's not possible to be a queer person? 1 in the chat if the left believes it's not possible to be a queer person. 2 in the chat if the left agrees with James and it is... Okay, hang on. Let me start again. 1 in the chat if the left agrees with James and it is not possible to be a queer person. 2 in the chat if the left is pretty clear that it is possible to be a queer person. So 1 in the chat if the left agrees with James, based on all the queer Marxist trainings we've watched. 2 in the chat if the left actually does identify themselves as queer people. Yeah, see, James, we've watched hundreds of hours of queer Marxism on my channel. There is no reality in which the left does not believe that it is not possible to be a queer person. That's not real, James. Being a queer person means rejecting normativity. It means rejecting the capitalist system. It means living outside the system. It means queering your appearance. It means queering your job. It means queering your life. It means queering any relationships that you have. They absolutely believe that it's possible to be a queer person, James. That's not real, James. You made that up.
For them. So what that means is, it's not possible to be a queer person. Every time they told you that this is about queer children or queer people being able to see themselves in a book or whatever else, there's no such thing. Queer is a political position. There are gay people, that's true, we all know that's true. There are people who have other disorders. Paraphilias, as they're sometimes called, to be polite. Autogynephilia is a very big word that lies beneath many of the male to female trans characters. There are these things. These are real. But queer is a deliberate political position to defy normalcy. And like I said, this has old roots.
James, what does non-binary mean? Identifying as non-binary makes you a queer person, James. What about the people who have they have haircuts, James? They have haircuts where they have little bangs and the shaved sides of their heads and the mullets. That's a queer fucking haircut. What about the people who have queer tattoos? They actually call them queer tattoos. It's a style of tattooing called ignorant tattoos that is specifically meant to queer tattooing. What about the people in polyamorous relationships, James? Polyamorous relationships are specifically meant to queer the nuclear family. This is such bullshit.
Queer theory it goes back way before 1995 with David Halperin. It goes back before Judith Butler in 1990 and 1993 when she was basically
Where does it
writing.
come from?
The essence of Judith Butler's idea could be summarized in this 6-word sentence: drag is life, life is drag.
Oh, come on!
So
come on! Come on! Come on! Pop quiz for the chat. Can you summarize Judith Butler for me better than James just summarized Judith Butler? James just said that Judith Butler summarized means drag is life and life is drag. Can someone please, in a more clear and succinct way, summarize Judith Butler for me? I can do it, but I want to make sure you guys can do it. Can someone in a more clear way tell me in one single sentence what Judith Butler means? Drag is about showing gender is performative. Judith Butler says that gender is performative. Gender is performance. Gender is performance. That's what Judith Butler means. Gender is performance. Drag is life and life is drag. What the fuck does that even mean? Judith Butler teaches people that gender is a performance. Gender is performance. God damn.
It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, and it doesn't matter if you present as a man or a woman, you're always performing your gender. You're always doing drag. So if you're a woman and you present feminine, well, you're performing femininity, and you're creating a belief that if you're a woman, you're supposed to look and act and dress and carry yourself a certain way. And if you're a man and you present masculine, well, you're performing male drag. You're actually a male drag king. The only people actually who get it are the people who are actually drag kings and drag queens.
No.
Which means they're kind of enlightened and we're all in...
No. Wrong, James. Wrong. The people who get it are non-fucking binary. The goal of Drag Queen Story Hour is to get people to reject the gender binary. That is the point. The point of teaching kids that gender is a performance is to teach kids that changing your gender is as easy as changing your clothes. Because it's not a binary. It's not men and women. Gender is a spectrum. That's what the goal is. Acting out Judith Butler doesn't mean being a drag queen, James. It means being non-fucking binary. Judith Butler literally identifies as non-binary. I know I'm getting upset here, but Jesus fucking Christ. Judith Butler is literally non-binary. How does he not understand this? Yeah, exactly. In the Penguin song that we watch all the time, the video that they use to teach kids that gender is performative in school, it's from amaze.org. It's called Express Yourself Your Way. They're not teaching kids to be drag queens. They're teaching kids to be non-fucking binary. And why do they want the kids to be queer and non-binary? Why? What is the goal? Hey, Milo, great question. I will tell you what the goal is. They want the kids to be non-binary because abolishing the gender binary is one of the goals of queer Marxism. The reason they want to abolish the gender binary is because it is a direct attack not only on capitalism, which created the gender binary in the first place. The gender binary is also called the patriarchy. It's not only an attack on capitalism directly, it's also an indirect attack on capitalism through the abolition of the nuclear family, because if the gender binary gets abolished, then the nuclear family is going to get abolished. The nuclear family is the means of reproduction of capitalism from this thing called social reproduction theory that James never talks about. James doesn't understand. James has never explored with his audience at all. But social reproduction theory means that social systems will reproduce themselves until they are disrupted. Abolishing the gender binary, getting kids to identify as non-binary, gender queer, gender fluid, whatever the fuck, is a direct attack on the nuclear family, because what they're trying to do is disrupt the system as a way to disrupt capitalism. That's why. Does anyone need more alcohol? I need more alcohol. Hang on. I'm going to go with Rosemary's Baby. Yeah, I'll clip that, Molly. Don't worry about it. By the way, guys, I do also have all this documented on my Substack. If you're looking for clips of me talking about this stuff, you can find it on the YouTube channel in the playlist called How to Speak Socialist. You can find articles in the Woke 101 section of my Substack. That's carlin.substack.com. The reason I could just say that part so fast is I've repeated it almost every day of my life to try to teach people what queer Marxists actually believe, because I have to work against people like James. The reason I get so pissed off is my job would be so much easier if James Lindsay wasn't running around misinforming literally millions of people. The reason I could say that part so quickly off the top of my head is I've had to repeat it almost every day of my life for 2 fucking years. But it is available on my Substack, carlin.substack.com. There are playlists on the channel. I will make a clip of what I just said as well. And Molly, every single stream, I will probably repeat it at least 15 or 20 times, just because that is the, I have a literal fucking PhD, and this is what I do on the internet. I repeat the same thing over and over and over again every single day, because I am battling the fucking giant rock that I have to roll up the hill that is James fucking Lindsay. James never ever tells people the entire goal because about wanting to destroy capitalism. Yeah, you'll get there, Molly. Don't worry about it.
The dark. We're in Plato's cave, and they're the enlightened people who know more than everybody, and therefore get to be Plato's philosopher kings and tell us how the world works, which is why Ketanji Brown Jackson, when asked by Senator Marshall Blackburn, one of my senators, what is a woman, said, I have to ask an expert.
No, James, the reason that she said that is the left doesn't believe that women fucking exist. The left doesn't believe that women exist. The reason that what is a woman is not the own that conservative shills think it is because the left doesn't believe that women should exist. As long as men and women exist, you have the gender binary. That's what the gender binary is. It is men and women. They don't believe men should exist either, by the way. They want to get rid of the socially constructed gender categories altogether.
I'm not kidding. That's what's going on. You have to ask an expert. These enlightened gender theorists, she's a biologist, but an enlightened gender theorist is necessary to say who is and who isn't a woman. This is easy to prove. How can I prove it? Well, let's say that your 6-year-old tells a school counselor, notice that this is some new psychological position in schools that didn't exist when you went to school. There were no school counselors. We had guidance counselors. Right. They were a bunch of different things. It's a very different thing. Sounds like it's the same. Oh, it's just one different word. It's a completely different program. They're not guiding your children into career services in the future. They're actually doing counseling with your children. So let's say your 6-year-old son tells the school counselor.
Bot, I'm about to buy a whole bunch of slime. There's a fall slime drop on Bot and Mine's favorite slime store, and I'm gonna buy a whole. I'm gonna cope with my anger over this presentation by shopping for slime and simultaneously debunking James. They've got a lot of pumpkin slimes. They've got some nice they've got apple pie slimes. They've got brown sugar slimes. They've got sweet potato pie slimes. Anyway, sorry for the slime interruption.
Maybe not in South Carolina, maybe in South Carolina, but certainly in other states, certainly in California, where you could lose your kids over this. It says, your 6-year-old son says, I think I'm a little girl. Well, that absolutely has to be affirmed. The school counselor is absolutely going to say, wow, that's so stunning and brave of you to say so. Let's go. Let's get you in the GSA after school. Let's do this. Let's do that. We're going to get you affirmed. Let's protect you from your parents. Let's get the state involved. Blah, blah, blah. Right? So that 6-year-old, somehow these people know immediately that the 6-year-old claiming a different sex, or different gender, gender's a made-up word, is absolutely right. That person, that same gender counselor or whatever at the school or at a clinic or anything else, is going to take, say, Caitlyn Jenner or Bruce Jenner's word for it when he says, I'm Caitlyn. Absolutely true, unchallengeable, could lose your job for misgendering Bruce Jenner, right? But if Donald Trump came out at his next rally and says, I'm the first transgender woman running for president, they'd say he's making a mockery of trans, it's not real, and they would not accept his claim. So it's totally up to the experts to decide whose claim on gender is true and whose is not. Why? Because there's no observable fact in reality you could actually look to determine it. It's only actually determined if you agree with the ideology or not. And if you agree with the ideology, that means that they perceive that you're doing so in a way that upsets the apple cart on the normal, the legitimate, and the dominant, in a way where you could be leaned into or are already leaning into an intentional opposition to normalcy, legitimacy, and dominance. And the goals are the typical Marxist goals. It's to bust up society, cause division, cause confusion.
The goals are the typical Marxist goals. To bust up society, to cause division, to cause confusion. James, the goal of Marxism is to abolish capitalism. I'm not even going to do a pop quiz in my chat. Sam already knew. No, James, the typical Marxist goal is to abolish capitalism, which is defined as private property ownership, as outlined in the Communist Manifesto, which you've already quoted, motherfucker. We need to start it on James again with the Say Capitalism campaign. Say capitalism, James. Say capitalism. Why do Marxists want to cause problems, James Fenderbean? I'm glad you asked. I will explain explicitly why Marxists want to cause problems. Because the 4 goals of the woke left are always and forever the same. Gain as much power as possible, destabilize the system, attack capitalism, usher in their Marxist utopia. Destabilize the system is goal number 2. They do that after they gain positions of power that allow them to make changes that fundamentally destabilize our way of life. They also do it through mass protest movements. They do it by causing problems. When the left is destabilizing the system, queer theory is one of the ways they're destabilizing the system. It causes problems that cause people pain. When people say, things suck, why do things suck so badly? Marxists go, do you know why you have all these problems? Do you know why we have all this pain right now? It's because of capitalism. Capitalism created every problem in the world. And if we just get rid of capitalism, we will be able to solve all problems. That's why they cause problems. So they can tell people, capitalism caused all these problems. Doesn't capitalism suck? Isn't capitalism awful? Why don't we just get rid of capitalism? Why don't we try Marxism? Why don't we replace capitalism with Marxism? That's why. James, you're going to drive all of us to an early fucking grave in your retarded kindergarten fucking assessment of what's going on in the world. Not one mention of the word capitalism. All right, here's what I need everyone to do on the chat right now. I need everyone, while we are watching James, we're going to do something productive. I need everyone to create a new Twitter sock account. You might need to create a new email address. You can go to Proton Mail, create a new Proton Mail email address, and I need you to go onto Twitter, and I need you to create a new Twitter sock account. If you've been blocked by James, you need a new account. Because I'm sick of this shit. We gave James a break for a while, and obviously nothing changed. So we need to restart the war. The war against James is back. Groypers are having their own war against Trump. We have our war against James. Everyone needs to go create another sock account. Use that to create another YouTube screen name. Go make sure you subscribe to New Discourse's YouTube page. You thought we fucking forgot about this, James? You want to fuck around?
Cause the chaos in which they can place policies like we see in, I think, 12 or 13 states, including, I mentioned, California, where if you don't affirm this as a parent, you can actually lose your kids. That's what this is for. And so the question is, oh my God, this is horrible. That's hard for a confused or struggling adult to deal with. I'm a little bit lost, honestly, at the moment. How did it get in our schools? And by the way, I started by saying it came before Judith Butler. It came before Michelle Foucault, the first queer theorist. But this all goes back to Karl Marx. Like I said, it's just oppressor versus oppressed in a new way that twists up American sensibilities about civil rights and caring about people who have a rough shake. Christian values on caring for people who don't have as fair of a deal in society. They call it the social gospel. It's a complete heresy. It's a complete perversion of the gospel. But it's a thing. And so it's really old. It's Marxism. And it's older than Marxism, but we won't get into all that. So how in the world does it get into schools? Well, because leftists don't sleep. Leftists don't rest. There's a famous quote from Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who wrote the Gulag Archipelago, about how awful the Soviet Union Gulag situation, Soviet Union political situation was, having survived it. And what he said was, you people in Western countries, I know you're tired fighting against the communists. I know you're tired, but the communist who wants your society, he is not tired. He is not tired at all. In fact, they don't get tired.
Wait. What did Nick do? Can someone give me a Nick? Why is Nick #1 trending on X? What did he do?
They pump out reams and reams of theory. You know, here's another difference between you and the left. If you went and you said, I don't like what's going on, and you go and you ask, say, I don't think we should have this book in the library, and they say, well, you have to have this book in the library. You might get upset, but you'll say, well, they said it, and you go home. When the right gets told no, or the right loses, they go home. When the left loses anything, the smallest thing, an emoji on Twitter. Yep. Not even on their phones in general, just on Twitter.
Oh, because Ben Shapiro. Can we just talk about the fact? Can we just talk about why did Tim Pool give an interview to Ben Shapiro over the Tenet Media thing? Doesn't that seem a little suspicious to anyone? The very first person, the only person that Tim Pool grants an interview to on the whole Tenet Media thing is Ben fucking Shapiro. Wait, Trump admitted that he lost? Okay, fuck Trump. Fuck Trump. Oh, God. I hate Trump so much. I hate him. I hate him. Are you shitting me? How many people did Trump just throw under the bus? Yeah, I know he meant 2020 fluffy cow. I know. How many people did Trump just throw under the bus? Oh my God, Nick must be pissed. Nick must be pissed. I didn't know that. I didn't know he said that. Oh God. I would be pissed off if I were him. I would be pissed off if I were anyone that got in trouble for January 6th. Like, I got an FBI interview from January 6th. I didn't go to fucking jail. Oh. I didn't know that. Everything sucks. Everything is fake and gay. Everything sucks. We still have almost an hour of this speech, and I'm almost losing my voice from yelling so much. All right, let's keep going.
They flip out. They flip out. You look at this breakdancer from Australia. Did you guys see this? So it's the judge's fault, it's society's fault, it's sexism, blah, 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 blah. It's always somebody else's fault, and they are fully entitled to go to war. This Jasmine Crockett lady that's in Congress made a fool of. I think she gets primaried or something like this. And then, no, it's Cori Bush, sorry. They're all the squad's all the same to me. And so Cori Bush loses, and then decided it was a good idea for whatever reason to wage war on a Jewish charity or whatever that she thinks funded her, or probably did fund her opponent to get her out. And so it's always, when they lose, they come back and hit.
It's just a Jewish charity. AIPAC, guys, James Lindsay thinks that AIPAC is just a Jewish charity. They're an innocent little group. Just an innocent Jewish charity that funded Cori Bush's opponent to get her out of Congress. Not something we need to worry about. It's just a Jewish charity, guys. They just want what's best for the Jewish people. It's not like they control every member of Congress or anything. It's not like they can spend millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of Israeli dollars in American elections to try to influence the election outcome. AIPAC is just a Jewish charity, according to James Lindsay. Oy vey. Oy vey indeed. Oy fucking vey.
3 times as hard the next day. They don't hesitate. This is the difference. They feel fully entitled. They don't sleep. They don't rest. And so when they saw queer theory, of course they thought this needs to go in the schools. Everything is about driving their agenda forward. Everything. So as soon as queer theory was being defined in 1995, it was also being written about in the education literature. But unfortunately, the colleges of education were not ours anymore by 1995. They were theirs. The date that the Marxist historian...
By the way, James stole that talking point from me. I was the only one talking about the corruption of the teaching pool coming out of the colleges of education. I've been talking about it since 2021. Actually, no, I've been talking about it since 2020. I wrote about it in my book. I wrote my book at the beginning of 2021. I was talking about it in 2020. James was following me. James took this talking point from me. I know no one is surprised about that.
In education give is that the critical pedagogues, as they're called, using critical education theory, or technically called critical pedagogy, owned our colleges of education across most of North America by 1992. They had enough people and enough positions and enough power to be able to dictate the majority of what went on in education schools in most universities across the entire North American continent by 1992. So now you have these queer theorists thinking, wow, we can get this stuff right in front of kids. And let me just tell you, I've read a lot of queer theory. Much like the books you guys are trying to fight about in the library, and you can't even, you go to these meetings and you read them and they try to fine you for violating some rule, which of course somehow it can be in front of kids. Queer theory has that kind of stuff in every one of its formal academic books too. They're just as dirty, they're just as gross, they're just as graphic, but they also reference in virtually every single work, sometimes on almost every other page, something about children. Not the desire to teach children queer theory, something more explicit about children. For example, and I won't use a gross one, the exact same paragraph where David Halperin defines queer for the first time, as I just explained. If you read about 2 sentences down from the whatever is at odds with the normal, the legitimate, the dominant as its definition, about 2 sentences down, he says it can mean a lot of things. It could mean, for example, it doesn't just have to mean gays and lesbians. He reiterates that it's not about sexuality. It doesn't just have to mean that. He said it could be married couples without children, because that's not normative. It's normal that married couples do have children. And I guess he's primarily meaning couples that decide intentionally not to have children, but I don't know, he doesn't specify. And then he goes on and he says, or it could be married couples with children, perhaps in italics, very naughty children. They can't leave it alone. So they see an opportunity, and of course they work it in. And they have their in through the education schools, because critical pedagogy has already taken over our ed schools roughly at the same time queer theory is developing. And so, what's critical pedagogy? Because the queer pedagogy...
Wait. James Lindsay thinks they took over the education schools at the same time as the queer theory was developing. No, James, they took over the education schools decades before that.
Is the fusion of critical theory and critical education into queer theory. How do you get to this? Well, critical pedagogy comes from a guy named Paulo Freire. Ultimately, I've spoken here in Charleston about Paulo Freire before.
So listen, I'm not going to diminish the impact of Paulo Freire. James actually has a good point with this, but James just completely deflected what queer theory is and was like, why don't we talk about Paulo Freire and pedagogy of the oppressed? Why don't we talk about that? Paulo Freire isn't a queer theorist, James.
And my earlier book called The Marxification of Education talks about him in tremendous detail, telling you what he does. So Paulo Freire has this concept, a new concept of education he developed as a Marxist, by the way, and as a liberation theologian. So actually, as a theologian, he developed a form of religious values instruction. He said in order to teach it, you have to go through your own personal Easter and die and be resurrected. That's his word, on the side of the oppressed. You have to have a personal relationship with the oppressed, like a personal relationship with Jesus for Christians. And he says that this is the true meaning of Easter. The true meaning of Easter is to die and be reborn on the side of the oppressed. And he calls the Easter that Christians celebrate commemorative rhetoric, a mere date on the calendar. He says it is dead with no hope of resurrection. So the Christian Easter is getting stamped underfoot and elevated into this new woke, fake heresy of Easter. I mean, it's so disgusting. I'm like stalling out here. This is what he says it takes to be actually true educated. In other words, like I said earlier, like Marx believed, or like Herbert Marcuse believed, you have to have that qualitative transformation inside of yourself. Transform, by the way, is one of their favorite words. You may have noticed. Any document you see in education.
Here we go. Is everyone ready for some Gnosticism? Here we go.
Talks about transformative, transform education, transform this, transform that, transform the kids. That's Marxism. Almost definitely. Not 100% of the time, but it's enough of a red flag to start asking the question and looking into it more deeply and putting together a case one way or the other. And it's almost always Marxism, because you're supposed to transform yourself into who you really are in Marxism, which is a socialist. The belief is that you are intrinsically a socialist, and capitalism alienates you from your true human nature, which is...
Holy shit! James just said the word capitalism. Rare based moment, James. Rare James win. Capitalism named. Rare James win. James said the word capitalism. He said it. He said it. I think we did that, by the way. I credit us. We won. We won. Now we just need to get James to say it more. We need him to correct every other fucking falsehood that he's told in this presentation. Briefly said it. Uh-huh. We see you, James. We know. Guys, this is proof that James hears us. Yeah, we'll replay it. This is proof that James hears us, that James can pretend we're not on his ass all he likes, but this is proof. Again.
Transform yourself into who you really are in Marxism, which is a socialist. The belief is that you are intrinsically a socialist, and capitalism alienates you from your true human nature, which is socialist. So you're returning to your true nature, your true human nature, by becoming socialist. Well, queer theory actually turns out to say the exact same thing. It says that our true nature is queer, but that society and education straighten kids out. That's the phrasing they use, straighten.
We were so close. We were this close. We were so close. He said the word. He said it. We thought he understood. James. Queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. That's what the actual queer Marxists say. Yeah, it's over. We thought we won. but we really lost. It's over. It's over. James, all queers are socialists, which means all non-queers are capitalists, James. Queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism, James. Wake up, James. It's literally in the song we wrote about you, James. We tried to help you. We wrote a whole song to help you. Well, I wrote a whole song. It's like it's like, you know what it is? It's like when you're in a relationship. It's like you're in a relationship and there was a time when that relationship was good, and then something happened, there was a fight or something, and then the relationship got bad. And all you want is to go back to the good relationship. All you want is to regain that beautiful synergy that happened at the beginning of the relationship when it was still like young love and there were still butterflies in the stomach and all that. That's all you want to go back to, but there's been something that has disrupted that relationship and you're desperate to get back. And then the person you're in the relationship with gives you a glimmer of hope. And you're like, holy shit, can we just go back to when it was good? Because when it was good, it was really good. Like, we were in love. There was butterflies in the stomach. We were having amazing sex. Like, it was awesome. We had so much fun. And we just want to go back to that good place. And they give you a glimmer of hope. Like, one night you go out on a date night and you get drunk and you have really fucking great sex or something. Or there's like a really good conversation and you guys are having a great time. And then the next morning, it all goes back to the way it was and you start fighting again. Because the relationship is over. And maybe you had one last grasp that maybe it could be recovered, but no, you both changed, you both become different people. And you have to accept that. James gave us that glimmer. He gave us a glimmer for a moment, and then he ripped it away.
Brings them out. And so you have to introduce this as early as possible to them. There are other reasons why they target kids and why they try to destroy childhood innocence as an idea that we can surmise. We don't have to say them out loud. We know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Fluffy Cow Respecter, we tried so hard and we got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. Yep. It's over.
They are. But they're very interested in the idea that the children have to be introduced to this queer ideology, which prevents them from learning to develop category thinking. Boy, girl, man, woman.
Hey, James, what's another term for category? Could that be called hierarchy, James? Could they be talking about a hierarchy? Is that what you're talking about, James? Is it a hierarchy? Because socialists don't just call it a category, they call it a hierarchy, James. Are you talking about a hierarchy?
Good, bad, safe, dangerous, family, stranger. They want that category thinking very blurry. They want it queered, as they say. And they do this with children for a lot of reasons. One is that they're a captive audience in schools. One is that they're children. They'll believe literally almost anything you tell them. If you went up to a 47-year-old man and said, did you know that you might actually be a girl inside and that there are 97 pronouns, they would say, no. What's wrong with you? Can I take you to the hospital? Did you hit your head? I mean, seriously. And they would think that that's oppression, that this is the way that it is. But with a child, wow, really? And let's get out the coloring books and color the flag for which gender you are. And there's 100 of them. And all of them are really cool, pretty colors, bright rainbow colors. But for the sexualities, do you know what the flag for, there's a flag for straight. Do you know what it looks like? You know, picture the trans flag, right? So it's the blue and the pink and the white and then the pink and the blue. Same structure, 5 stripes, but it's dark gray, white, light gray, dark gray. So you can have one of the colorful flags or you can have the gray flag. That's called brainwashing, folks. That's called brainwashing. What I want to tell you about Paulo Freire is this is really all I really want to tell you. Is just to give you an idea how old this is. Paulo Freire uses this concept for education that he calls generative themes. I'm not going to get into what generative themes are except to say that they are intentionally, emotionally engaging concepts that are familiar to the person, the student's life. So you're going to deal with something that kids will know what it is, and it gets them excited, or it makes them scared, or it stresses them out. You're going to get their emotions engaged, but it has to be something that's relevant to their personal life. Like I said, it's a personal relationship with the oppressed. And you use education, Paulo Freire says, as an excuse through this generative theme method to get the kids excited about something and then switch from the academic material to a political conversation. His phrasing for that, his exact phrasing is that the academic material or the literacy lesson for him, because he was only talking about literacy, he wasn't talking about math, the literacy lesson is a mediator to political knowledge. So the point is to have a political conversation. Now if you read his book, The Pedagogy of the Oppressed, from 1970, which is his magnum opus, in a footnote right after he describes how this works, footnote number 10 in chapter 1, I've had to cite it a few times, he says that this method is derived from the Cultural Revolution led by Mao Zedong. And then I recently found out, I was like, ha, got it. Dead to rights, there it is, right? And then I recently found out that Lenin wrote in the 20s and 21 that actually there's no such thing as education that isn't also political education. So actually he stole the idea from Lenin.
No shit, James. No shit. You discovered that from Lenin? James. Have you ever actually read the Communist Manifesto, James? Have you ever actually fucking read it? Because when the Communist Manifesto argues to abolish the biological family, you know what the very next fucking paragraph is? It's talking about how they will use education to control society. No fucking shit.
Years ago. Through Mao. So this is a long tide, in other words, that we're talking about here when I say the tide is turning. It's a 100-year tide. So I've talked enough about all this history. You guys are actually starting to catch up with me. I find that I go places and people are actually, either they already know everything I'm going to say, or they're sometimes saying stuff.
Well, too bad James hasn't caught up with us. Too bad James is about 2 years behind where we are on a good day. Maybe someday James Lindsay will catch up to us. The Moms for Liberty are just catching up to James. Maybe someday if James tries really hard and he applies himself and he starts to hinge back into reality and he lets go of this Gnostic fantasy that he has made up and invented that is not real, maybe someday James will catch up with us.
To me, I'm like, whoa, I didn't know that. But you guys are off doing your own reading. I strongly encourage people, by the way, to learn to speak leftist. You can immediately see basically
Excuse me, what? You encourage people to learn how to speak leftist, James? Really? Really? Is that what you do, James? You encourage people to learn how to speak leftist, James? Really? James, is that anything like... I know I'm probably just making this up, but is that anything like how to speak socialist, James? James, you encourage people to learn how to speak leftist? Doesn't that sound familiar? Where have I heard that before? Where have I heard that before? See, it wasn't just an accident that we caught James saying that he steals stuff and then he directly quoted me. Now James is really encouraging people how to speak leftist. Really, James? Really? James, have you developed any helpful programs to teach people how to speak leftist? James, do you have any videos to teach people how to speak leftist? Do you have any examples of what it means to speak leftist, James? Here's my $5 bet that hopeful day. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. 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 Kind of looks like we caught you again, James. Isn't it funny that James encourages his audience to block all of us? I can't imagine why he would do that. It's not as though I literally have a whole series of tweets and series of video called How to Speak Socialist. But James is the person that's going to teach people how to speak leftist. When James doesn't even know how to yeah. Yup. Unfucking believable. Unfucking believable. I am declaring an official comrade war against James Lindsay. We gave him a little bit of a break. We were distracted with other things. And now we are declaring war again on James Lindsay. We need to start showing up at James Lindsay events. We need to be asking James Lindsay questions. We need to constantly be on James Lindsay's ass in his Twitter feed, because Twitter is the only thing that James Lindsay cares about. We need to be replying to every single person who replies to James in his Twitter feed. Yeah, James speaks sneaky snakish. Like James. Yep. James speaks sneaky snakish. Yep. Every single time. Do you guys find it to be a coincidence that every single time we watch James, we find out that he's literally plagiarizing me? Every single fucking time. Every time, without fail, that we watch James Lindsay, he is plagiarizing me. Everyone get the pitchforks and the torches. We're not going to take this shit anymore. We're not going to... You know what? And James is shitting on all of you as well. I hope you understand that. He's not just shitting on me. He's shitting on all of you as well. My audience has put in more work watching and tracking the radical revolutionary far left than anyone in James's audience can ever dare dream. You guys have sat through hundreds, if not thousands of hours of socialism with me. Yes, James is intentionally misleading his audience because he is paid to do so by Moms for Liberty and Turning Point USA. James could never survive infiltrating a socialist event like I have countless fucking times. James doesn't even know how to speak leftist. James could say, I encourage my audience how to speak leftist. Ha 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 ha. He doesn't even know how to speak leftist. He can't even define the fucking terms. This is intentional. We still have like a half hour of this speech. Can we just listen to James say that again? How James is constantly encouraging his audience to learn how to speak leftist. Just one more time, just for me.
I'm gonna say, or they're sometimes saying stuff to me, I'm like, whoa, I didn't know that. Like, you guys are off doing your own reading. I strongly encourage people, by the way, to learn to speak leftist.
Can someone please search James's Twitter account to see how many times he has tweeted the term speak leftist? Just that term, speak leftist. I want to know when was the first time he tweeted it. I want to know how often he tweeted it. Can someone please look into that? Let me know. Do a little report back. Thanks, Reagan. Appreciate it.
You can immediately see basically straight through everything Madam Vice President says. We're being formal as a means of slighting her.
James, Kamala Harris doesn't even fucking speak leftist. Are you insane? Kamala Harris doesn't even speak socialist.
Kamala. President Trump recently said, he got in trouble for it, he said, yeah, I had a bunch of consultants, they said there's like...
Fluffy Cow Respecter has said that James has tweeted speak leftist one time on August 25th. Was that of this year, Fluffy Cow Respecter? That was of 2024? Because that would be around the time James gave this presentation. Was that this year? I have literally been teaching a class called How to Speak Socialist since September of last fucking year. This year. I started teaching how to speak socialist last fucking September. And he only did that one. Yeah. James is always encouraging his audience to learn how to speak leftist. It's just really interesting language you use, James, since literally how to speak socialist is something I've been saying over and over and over and over and over again. I have a series written about that. I literally have a Substack, speaksocialist.substack.com, where I'm writing my next book called How to Speak Socialist. But no, James, you've just been encouraging people to learn how to speak leftist this entire time, bro. Yeah, sure, okay, yeah. Oh, I fucking hate this asshole. Oh, I'm sorry. August 20th and 25th? Oh, well, that changes everything. Watch, next James Lindsay is going to come out with a class. How to Speak Leftist. With James Lindsay. Lesson 1. Everything Kamala Harris says is communist.
Like 7 ways to say your name. I don't know. They tell me the right way. I don't care how to say it. Actually, I just don't care. And I think this is the right attitude to have, frankly. Kamala makes them mad. They get really upset. So she's Kamala now. Kamala.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. James Lindsay's next book is going to be called How to Speak Socialist. Yeah. Okay, James. Okay. Well, this is motivation for me to get to start publishing in my book Substack again, and I appreciate everyone that's supporting that book Substack. And I know I haven't published in it in a minute. I just haven't because of reasons, but this is certainly lighting a fire under my ass to revisit that Substack.
Drag it out, Kamala, right? It makes them really mad. For some reason, this really flips them out. It's like a feminist with a doctorate that you don't call doctor, like Joe Biden. They get really upset. So anyway, I like that. Sun Tzu said that if your enemies of choleric temper, irritate them. So, Kamala it is. If they're easily made mad, make them look bad. Tim Waltz is a perfect example. But I digress into the politics again. Because I want to talk about what it's like. So I want you to understand, first of all, that I said at the start that we're at the turning of this tide. And what I've given you is just a taste of what we're dealing with in the schools. I mean, we know that I could go on for like 11,000 hours on each of these topics if we had to. And I don't care to do that. You can listen to my podcast. I've done like 80 billion of them. I think I'm almost at like 700 hours of podcast right now. So.
Oh, James, you got 700 hours of podcasts? You got 700 hours of podcasts? Just so people know, I create more content a month covering the far left than James Lindsay creates by far. By far. By a significant degree. James has got 700 hours of podcasts in total. I do over a dozen hours of content a week. A dozen hours of content at least every single week for 4 fucking years.
Somebody emailed me the other day, one of my friends from way back in real life texted me and she said, I finally finished listening to all your podcasts. And I was like, whoa. I don't think I've listened to them all yet. What I wanted to make the point though is that if this is the tide, right? Normally the tide goes in and out twice a day. I don't know if you know how the tide works, but it goes in and out twice a day. I mean, you're in Charleston, so if you don't know how the tide works here, I guess I speak all over the place. And not everybody has tides, guys, I'm sorry. If you don't know how it works here, you might need to see a specialist. But it goes in and out twice a day. So look at me, mountain people. It goes in and out twice a day. So it's about every 6 hours there's a switch, right? Okay, so we get this idea. This tide has been coming in for a century. So if you think that the turning of the tide means that, oh wow, we've got some good candidates, we've got 5 out of 9 or whatever, we've got 7 out of 13 or whatever the deal is, we got whatever it is we need to win, blah, 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 we got a great attorney general, people are waking up, back to day-to-day life, just want to be left alone, you don't understand what's going on. This is I don't think we're going to need 100 years to push the tide all the way back out, but we're going to need some time. And education is in particular an important field, and it's going to take a lot longer because they've been so diligent about taking over education. So I want to talk for a second about why did they take over education with so much diligence, so much persistence, so much intention? Why did they dive in so vigorously? Why does that history book that the Marxists wrote about their own educational process, it's called The Critical Turn in Education by Isaac Gottesman, if you want to check my references. The first sentence of the book says, where did all the 60s radicals go? Not to the religious cults, not to yuppiedom, to the classroom.
Yeah.
Why were they so hell-bent on getting into education and taking...
If anyone would like to donate to the cause by signing up for my Substack for $8 a month or $80 a year, because God knows I don't have Moms for Liberty funding, and I never will, because I'm never selling my soul like James did. I don't have Turning Point USA funding like James does, because I'm never selling my soul like that. If anyone wants to support the work I'm doing, which James Lindsay is obviously and clearly fucking copying, if anyone wants to support my work, because God knows James isn't going to have anything to talk about if he can't copy my work, please consider signing up for the Substack. Carlin.substack.com. $8 a month, $80 a year. You guys keep me in business. Also, you can send in super chats. Stuff like that. And please support the work I'm doing because, you know, if I stop doing it, who knows what James will cover? Who knows what James will cover? Who knows what insanity will envelop out of James's mouth? I'm just saying.
Taking over education so that they actually had full command of it by 92. They did not have command of the Democratic Party in 92. They did not have command of the Republican Party in 1992. They did not have command of the business environment in 1992, but they had control of colleges of education. They really cared about that. Why? Because they understand something.
James, they had control of colleges of education decades before that, you fucking moron. They had control of the colleges of education by the 70s.
It's absolutely true, absolutely important that every parent knows in their gut and that every tyrant has exploited in history, which is that, as Hitler put it, controversially for Moms for Liberty, he who has the children gains the future. The children are the future. Their logic is if we get the colleges of education, then we get the teachers. And if we get the teachers, we get the next generation of...
That's literally me. He's quoting me. This is the second time that I've seen James Lindsay give a speech where he's quoting me on this specific topic. Press 1 in the chat if you heard me, if you have been listening to me say that, literally that exact line for years. I've been saying that line since 2020. Yup. I've been saying that for years. For literally years. I didn't get that from James. James got that from me. Oh my fucking God. This asshole. That came from me. Yeah, James's lesson 1 in how to speak socialist. Gnosticism. An introduction. Oh my fucking God. I hate everything. I hate everyone and everything. Thank God I have alcohol. My personal theory is that James knows how fucked we are and is currently sabotaging the right in order to get out of serving time in the gulag. That might be. That might be. Carlin is a much better teacher and communicator than James. He's pathetic. Hey, I agree with that. Yup. Thanks, Sam, for that super chat. I appreciate it. Okay, how many people are in with me for the war against James? Like, for real. For real, for real. Can I get some commitments? How many people are ready? We're gonna make a whole Discord channel out of this. Like, we need to start doing this for real. We kind of fucked around with it the first time. I am serious about, like, I can't take this shit. I can't take it. How many people are in with me for the war against James? Nope. No. I was the only one saying that in 2020 when I started saying it. I was the only one talking about the corruption of the teaching pool. Back when I first started saying it. Yup, the only things he's gotten right, he's taken from me. You know what? If James were crediting my work, if James was acknowledging that he was openly plagiarizing me, I wouldn't be as angry. I wouldn't be as angry. But the fact is that he's not doing that. Not only is he not acknowledging that he is stealing my shit, almost line for fucking line, he's also blatantly misinforming people about all the shit that he's not stealing from me. And anyone that has listened to my work for years knows exactly where this is coming from, Jimmy. I stopped listening to you years ago. And for anyone who says, why are you infighting? Why aren't you working together? James and I are not on the same team. I am on team solve the fucking problem. James is on team grift for fucking money. If James was on the team of solving the fucking problem, James would have not, first of all, not stolen my shit or given me credit for it, and James and I would have been working together a long fucking time ago. As I said in the video at the beginning, I tried to work with him for years. Not only does he refuse to engage in any fucking productive conversation, he smears me, he defames me, he smears my community, he tells everyone to block us, he tells everyone to not listen to us, he struggle sessioned not the B to remove my fucking credit. He works with people who watch my content just to clip it so he can fucking steal it. Well, Kylan, aren't you glad your ideas are getting out there? Do you understand that I fund all this through grassroots support and that this will cease to exist if people don't know that it comes from me? And when he is covering the correct ideas with a giant fucking mound of bullshit, no, I'm not happy. No. Because he is still misinforming millions of fucking people so he can cash those Moms for Liberty checks and he can cash those Turning Point USA checks. Ugh! We're not going to forget about this, James. Now you done pissed us off again.
Students, and if we get the students, we get the future.
Unfucking believable.
They completely understand that. So they have worked extremely hard to take over education, and it's going to be the hardest fight to get it back out. But it's also, even though it's one of these political things that just kind of slips off the table, whoops, we forgot about it, there's the economy, whoops, we forgot about it, there's the border, whoops, we forgot about it, there's the poly crisis and 47 5-alarm fires, the new one comes up every 3 days, whoops, education slipped off the table, not for Moms for Liberty though. never slips off the table for Moms for Liberty, which is why you need this organization, why this organization needs to keep growing and having more and more fire bringing to the table. It slips off the table so easily, but it's the single most important of all of the dimensions of our Because if you lose control of education and allow your enemies to educate your children will turn on you. And that's exactly what happened. Queer theory is perhaps the most devious and successful tool for turning children against parents that has ever been. Critical theory overall, including Howard Zinn's history, people's history of the United States, riddled with lies, utter nonsense, taught in so many schools you wouldn't believe it. The goal of that is to get the kids to hate their country. To think, yeah, man, we live in America, but it did a lot of bad stuff. Like, it's really, like, Christopher Columbus really bad.
No. I'm not targeting the MILFs. You want to know why? Because there are a lot of parents involved in the MILFs for Liberty that just want answers and that are trying to do the right thing to help their kids. And I don't want it, I want this to be crystal clear. I am not against average parents involved in Moms for Liberty. They're doing the best they can. There is a limited amount of information out there, and Moms for Liberty are the ones that have all the money, so they get in front of them, and so they think that's their resource. They're trying to do the right thing. Our war is not with average moms and dads. Our war is with James fucking Lindsay.
Bad. Like, Civil War, really bad. Racism, really bad. Ooh, and my grandparents were probably on the wrong side of this, and my parents, now you're tearing up the family too. And it was Christians that fought to keep stuff in place. So my religion's bad too. And you can start to pull every single, what am I talking about there? What do you pull up when you pull every single one of those up? You're pulling up the roots to their soul. So that the communists can capture their soul to transform them into what the communists believe they are by nature, which is communist.
The communists want to capture the souls of your children. That's what they want to do. They want to capture their souls.
Or in the modern parlance, queer. It's the same thing. So of course they don't have any use for these poor, indoctrinated, disruptive kids that they produce, so they're the first against the wall after the revolution.
Oh my
so it's
God, James.
doubly tragic because communism turns out to be pretty evil. But this is why you have to fight so hard for education. This is why you have to fight so hard to stand in the gap between this ideology and children. And this is why you have to do everything you can. Knock doors, give money, support.
Hang on. We are declaring a fucking jihad against James fucking Lindsay.
Candidates, throw your hat in the ring yourself to get involved and protect kids and win this fight, especially since the big political players are going to find 47 excuses by the end of the week to forget all about education. So even if all you're doing is calling your state rep and reminding him again and again and again and again, this is important, this is important, this is important, they need that. I've talked to enough reps and enough congressmen now to know. Byron Donalds told me directly, Congressman Donalds told me, if somebody's not telling me again and again and again what the important issues are, I've got 3,000 issues I forget. It's not that I'm malicious, it's not that I'm a bad guy, I just can't remember. There's too many. I have, 200 phone calls a day. It's too many, so you've got to be an advocate. And like Kara said, you're the number one stakeholder. Was it you that said you're number one stakeholder for your children? One of the, I don't want to steal valor here either. So one of the Michelle.
You literally steal valor all the time, James.
Lieber?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you meant.
Said that your parents are the number one stakeholder in their children's lives. It's true. Actually, you're the number one. You're more of a stakeholder in your children's future than your children.
By the way, has James talked about abolish the family at all? Has anyone heard James talk about abolish the family in this entire fucking talk? Because the goal of queer theory literally is to abolish the nuclear family, James. That is the fucking goal. That is the literal goal of fucking queer theory. Has James said that at all? Parents are so important and parents are critical and we should help parents and we should support parents. Has he explained to them what the fucking end goal is? No, he hasn't.
Because your children are children. And they don't have the foresight, they don't have the planning. They don't know what their future is going to look like. This is why they can't consent to puberty blockers or sex change operations, because they don't know what it is to be an adult. They don't know what they're leaving on the table. And I guarantee you that until I was probably close to 30, my mom probably cared more about my future than I did.
And I'll tell you what, here's another thing I want to do. I want to start direct outreach to members and Moms for Liberty. I'm going to start hosting, here's one of the things that we're going to do in our war against James Lindsay. This is not just going to be about destroying James until he shuts the fuck up or starts behaving like an adult. We're actually going to be productive about this. I'm going to start running how to speak socialist classes again. I'm gonna start to do like that sort of stuff again to actually show people what's going on. I'm working on the re-education series. I'm going to publish a new ebook with that. One of the things I want to do is I want to utilize you guys in our war against James Lindsay to start doing outreach to Moms for Liberty chapters, to Moms for Liberty members, to get this information into their hands. If James doesn't want to give it to them, we'll fucking do it. We will do it. That's got to be part of the outreach strategy, guys. This cannot just be about flaming James until he fucking relents and bends the knee. We've got to actually start helping, like making sure we're getting in front of parents that want this information, because they do want this information. And I'm not talking about the national organization. I could give a flying fuck what Tiffany Justice thinks about any of this. We can go directly to the chapters. We can go directly to the members. We can find them on Facebook. We can find them via Google searches. We can find them on Twitter. I'm going to need people's help in this. We're going to do direct outreach to the people that James is lying to, and then they can decide who they want to listen to. But we're going to make sure that they know the resources are there. And if there are other parent groups, we're going to reach out to them too. Like, we're not going to fuck around on this. Like, we're just not going to do this on Twitter. We're going to go directly grassroots to local organizations.
Because you have to grow up.
Hey, number one, hang on. Number one, James said earlier in this presentation that AIPAC is a Jewish charity. Just a little Jewish charity. Just a little Jewish charity that's trying to, like, you know, get Cory Bush out of office. That's how he referred to it as.
To care about your future.
That's right.
And so you guys are the advocates. You guys have got to get up and go to bed every day. And maybe it's the smallest thing in the world that you're just having another family dinner with no devices. And maybe it's the biggest thing in the world and you're running for office, or you're out knocking doors, or something even bigger than that. You're running a chapter for Moms. Who knows? There's a lot of things you can do. I'm not going to tell anybody specifically things they can do, because this is what y'all do on the ground. This is grassroots. I get the privilege of not having to have answers to those hard questions. I get to fly around and say nice sounding things. I'm probably about to preach a little bit though, because most of my actual kind of solutions are very dispositional, and actually it turns out sort of ironically determined.
Yeah, and I want to be clear about this. I have helped people give speeches in their communities. This doesn't have to be about me. I don't need to be the star of this show. Every single person here can go and give speeches. If you have followed my socialism content, if you've taken my socialist class, I will even give you can take the fucking clips. I don't care. Every single person that has followed my content is capable of giving a speech that is 100 times better than the speech that we've seen James give today, and I will support you in that, and I will help you in that, and you can take my resources and you can use it. I just ask that you credit it. That's all I really care about. But I don't want this to just be about me as the star of the show. I have helped people give speeches in their local communities covering exactly the same thing that I've covered. Everyone should be teaching this. It shouldn't just be one person. You know what? I never thought of that. Guys, did you know that maybe I could just reach out and talk to James? Wow, I never thought of that. In the years that I was trying to work with James productively in private, I never thought of that. You've introduced such a novel concept to me. I have never, ever thought of trying to reason with James Lindsay like a rational human being in private off of the internet. It's never crossed my mind before. How did you come up with such a novel idea? Are you serious, bro? Are you serious? It's almost as though someone missed the first 10 minutes of this stream.
Most of them came out of the gospel and the Bible. So I was like, well, there they are. I didn't invent anything. Nothing new under the sun, I think, is in that book too somewhere. So let's talk about some things. What do? How do we deal with this? Well, we got the joyful warrior idea in Moms for Liberty, right? What does that mean? Well, in Matthew chapter 10, verse 16, Jesus says, I send you out, and obviously this means it's
He's quoting the Bible. He's quoting the Bible to the wine moms. Bruh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Place your bets in the chat about what day James will convert to Christianity. As a reminder, James Lindsay is an atheist. Why is James Lindsay quoting the Bible? James Lindsay is an atheist.
talking to his disciples, and they're going to go out into a dangerous situation. So they send you out. You need to be as wise as serpents and gentle as doves. Well, that's 2 commandments. Why not? You need to not forget either one of them, right? So you need to be discerning. That's why I said learn to speak leftist. You need to tell when they're saying something.
There's that line again. There's that line again. Please learn how to speak leftist. Hang on.
So you need to be discerning. That's why I said learn to speak leftist.
That's why I said learn to speak leftist. That's why James just spends all his time encouraging people to learn how to speak leftist. It's not like I was talking about this a full year before James was, because we looked at James's Twitter account and James only started tweeting how to speak leftist in the last couple of weeks. I launched my How to Speak Socialist course a year ago. Yeah, learn to speak leftist kind of learns like how to learn to speak socialist to me. Yup. I knew this was going to be bad when we listened to it. I knew it. I fucking knew it. I fucking knew this was going to be bad. But you know what? We need to face this reality head on. And JD Vance isn't, yeah, exactly. He's not even, James isn't even using the term correctly.
You need to tell when they're saying something that's communist. You need to understand that when Kamala Harris stands up and says, you know, able to see what can be unburdened by what has been, that doesn't just ring like word salad, that actually might be something bad. When she stands up the other day, this was the big one, how are you going to pay for all this? A journalist finally caught her.
One in the chat if Kamala Harris speaks communist. 2 in the chat if Kamala Harris does not speak communist. Or socialist, rather, excuse me. I'll quote my own course that I created over a year before James started talking about this. 1 in the chat if Kamala Harris speaks socialist. 2 in the chat if Kamala Harris does not speak socialist. James, we listen to real socialists on this channel is the thing. We listen to them. We listen to them all the fucking time. Kamala Harris does not speak socialist, James. Kamala Harris is an opportunist, James. She doesn't speak socialist. What Kamala Harris says bears no resemblance to what we hear socialists saying. None at all. That's a lie you made up, James. Rottweiler says, friendly reminder, I have a bet going about when James will convert. Those who want know where to find me, feel free to share the handle. Yeah, so guys, Rottweiler is running a betting pool about when James Lindsay is going to convert to Christianity. If you would like to place a bet in the betting pool, please contact him.
can't pay for it. She's like, oh, well, the return on investment, blah, 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 return on investment, return on investment. People are like, oh, another Kamala word salad. No, it's not. She said we need to critically reevaluate how we measure return on investment. Uh-oh, critical theory, critical this, critical that. You've seen it enough times, critical race theory. Critically reevaluate how we measure return on investment. So she says, well, it has return on investment. She said that 4 times in a row or 5 times in a row like an idiot, because she knows that's the talking point answer. And then she says we have to critically reevaluate what that even means, which means she's using cooked books. She's using communist definition for return on investment. And then what does she give as examples for her return on investment? When you are strengthening communities and strengthening neighborhoods. Very vague, very communist sounding things. You have to get discerning, but you also have to maintain your gentleness. It's not enough to say, oh my God, we're up against.
James thinks that the term strengthening communities and strengthening neighborhoods is communist. That's not how communists talk, James.
Commies, we gotta throw them out of helicopters. Because that turns out to be just as dehumanizing to you as communism is to them in the first place. Jesus, not to get preachy with you, but Jesus drove the demons out and made fellowship with the person. He didn't say, whoops, that guy's got demons. Lightning. He drove out the demons, he didn't tolerate the evil, and then he made fellowship. So you have to be gentle as well. You have to go out and you have to make the argument. You have to be patient. I encourage you, if whether you like Charlie Kirk or not, I encourage you to watch his manner. He's extremely good at staying extremely calm. He doesn't always, he very frequently does say the right thing.
Oh shit, did I? No, I didn't. Yeah, what? Guys, go listen to Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk will tell you how to interact with people. Charlie Kirk has all the answers.
He doesn't always say the right thing or the best thing he could say. He doesn't always have the quickest comeback, but and I think it's overwhelmingly, he's a 30-year-old man for goodness sake, overwhelmingly maintains his composure, I think, because of his faith. Yeah. So I encourage you to remember that you have to keep both of those.
You should follow Charlie Kirk because Charlie Kirk is a Christian. And he is able to maintain his composure and talk to people because of his faith.
The way that the Marxists subvert your religious beliefs is they'll take something like that with 2 commandments. They'll say, look, Jesus said, it says, the book says, the gospel says, be as wise as serpents and gentle as doves. And communists will come along and say, Jesus said, be gentle. So that way you'll just kind of roll over and affirm whatever they say. You'll wear a mask to love thy neighbor and all of that. You get it all wrong, right? And then things start going wrong and they'll say, by the way, did you notice things are going bad? And they might be communists dressed as Republicans. This is a thing. There's an old saying in radical literature, dress as a Republican so you can speak as an anarchist.
Yeah.
And they come along and they say...
Yeah. Isn't it funny? My audience now considers Nick Fuentes to be a palate cleanser after we watch bullshit. Who could have seen that coming a year ago, Reagan? I mean, seriously. Who could have seen this coming a year ago? A year ago, you know what I've thought about doing? What I want to do is I want to go back and watch Nick Fuentes' speech where he declares a holy war. I want to watch it again. I want to watch it with these new eyes. Because, maybe, I know he probably regrets the language now in that. I know he thinks that was a misstep. But, can you seriously believe how far we've come in a year? I mean, my God. Nick Fuentes is now our palate cleanser. Nick Fuentes is our hinge into reality. Oh, God.
Gentle is not working. Maybe we need to stop being gentle. Maybe we need to, get right back in their face and take power and wield it back against them. And now, rather than getting back to what you're supposed to do in the commandment, now you've thrown out both sides of the commandment, you've lost it completely. And you've been totally subverted. It's very important to get this clarity, this discernment. You've got to spend time thinking, reading, talking with people. These meetings that we're talking about, getting together at people's houses, having these dinners or whatever else, building a community, going door knocking together. These things are really going to build you guys up. and they're going to help you. One of the purposes was sharing information, right? Getting informed.
07
You guys are getting your basis to where you're going to be able to be discerning and maintain your gentleness in the face of all the lies and slander that you're facing. You can't just stop. Okay, like I mentioned earlier, the left, when they lose, they get mad, right? And they come back even harder. That's important. So what happens? When you win, when the left wins, what do? Do they stop? Look at the UK. The Labour Party, which is the Fabian Socialist Party, just took over. If they stopped, no.
James thinks that the Labour Party in the UK are the worst socialists that exist in the UK. No, James. No. Wrong. Incorrect.
They provoked every bit of racial animus they could possibly do, installed two-tier policing. They're now emptying the prisons of violent criminals to house the protesters who are protesting against the immigration issue and the violent Muslim people that are in the streets causing literal stabbings, including of children and other things. So they're locking up the people saying no more of this. They aren't even being violent themselves. They're arresting people for tweets. Literally, for tweets. They're threatening to try to extradite Americans to arrest them. Good luck. We had 1776 for a reason, UK. We're not going back, I think is the phrase. Right? Okay, so when they win, they consolidate power. I'm not saying, in fact, I just said that consolidating power isn't quite the right way. But when you win, it's not time to go to sleep, it's time to start work. So you win the school board. Well, you need, if it's a bare majority, you better keep your people on it and you better get more. They say you have all of the school board or whatever. You think you're done? No. This is like coming home and you're out and your teenagers are having a party and you come in here, they're having a party, and you scream, and they all run away, and the house is wrecked. All right, we got the kids out. We're in control again. We're done. No, all the cleanup starts now. Now that you've recovered order of the environment, you've got to set the environment back in order. If you get to work, this is also very biblical. If you get to work, I'm just going to say two more things about what to do. But the point on that was, when you win, work harder, not less.
No,
the left does, and they consolidate their gains as quickly and as effectively as they can. You've got to put your stewardship into action when you've been given stewardship. That's the Good Shepherd point, by the way. So there's another important one. What do you do? Well, I don't know what your talents are. This is one of my favorite jokes. I'm going to ruin it by saying the joke. Some people are people of high talent, and other people don't have as many talents. There are people of middle talent. So you have people of high talent, and you have people of middle talent, and just to be fair, you also have Democrats.
Yeah, there was one mention of capitalism, and then he quickly retracted it and went back to fucking Gnosticism. And he's been human centipede. James has been quoting the Bible, and James is basically, he's entered preacher mode now.
If there's any here, it's a joke. If you're offended, that's okay. I don't care. It's a joke. Ricky Gervais said, the difference between you and me is you're offended and I think it's funny, that's why I'm happier than you. But you have talents, and the Bible tells you, the gospel tells you what you have to do with your talents. You have to double them. You can't bury them in the sand and wait until some future date and give them back or whatever. You have to go out and put them to work and double them. So if you know how to get 25 people to your house to have a party, I hope you have 50 soon at your party. If you have 5 or 6 volunteers that show up to door knock, I hope that the next time you have 10 to 12. And then each one of those things builds and builds and builds. The next time when you guys start having one of these big meetings again here, then 400 or 500, we can't even fit in this room, 400 or 500 people are here. Get the numbers behind you, build your community, whatever it happens to be, and do what your talents are to build and build and build that. If you get involved in...
Brucey, thank you for the super chat. He is rambling and all over the shop. Did people pay for this? Well, I happen to know what James's speaking fees are, because the Free State Project tried to get James to come and speak at PorkFest. James charges a minimum of $5,000 per speech, which actually isn't probably not as much as he could be charging. And I don't have any confirmation that he was paid $5,000 for this speech, but what I will tell you is that James's speaking fees start at $5,000 plus travel expenses per speech, and I have that in writing. So I'm just saying, if anyone wants to send in some super chats to help me reach my $100 super chat goal today, that we've spent 3 hours breaking this shit down and debunking all of this bullshit that Moms for Liberty paid $5,000 fucking dollars for, feel free to do so.
In office, learn what it takes to do what you have to do and do it effectively and do it better every single day. These are things that you have to do in order to be the good steward. And so the last one is no complaining. I'm going to tell you something. I said this on stage and with Charlie Kirk, and thousands of people saw it as a scandal, so I'll say it to you guys. I don't know if y'all know where I'm at religiously. It doesn't really matter, but technically I'm not religious. And so here I am a few weeks ago on a plane, about to take off on an O'Hare runway. Literally, we're like turning, it's almost over, and what happens? Donald Trump was shot.
Appreciate
so my phone immediately gives me 3,500 text messages. They shot Trump. And I'm like about to take off where there's no signal on this one little plane that doesn't have Wi-Fi. I'm like, I'm not gonna know what's going on. And so I'm like, did they shoot him or did they like shoot at him? And they're like, well, it hit him, but he's okay. And then I look on the social, like Twitter, and there's already the pictures of him fight. Right? No. And I'm like, I had to watch the video. He's, you know, and I'm like, I think I just saw a miracle. Yes, sir. All right. I don't know if I did or not. I'm just saying. I think I did though. I wanted to chew in on this.
James Lindsay is literally laying the foundation for a Christian conversion. What did we say? We all think James is going to convert by Christmas. He's literally saying, I'm not a religious person, but I believe in miracles now. No, I'm not purity spiraling. This is not a purity spiral. This is just James is full of shit. And he's objectively wrong. Based on this is not a fucking purity spiral. When you have real world evidence that someone is wrong and that someone is lying and obfuscating and not telling their audience the truth, that's not a fucking purity spiral. This is a fucking grift. We are calling a spade a spade. And it's not just me, bro. Listen, you're on Twitter right now. Come over to YouTube. Come look in my chat. This is not just coming from me. My chat on YouTube is going insane. My chat on YouTube is more offended about this than I am.
Here's what I do know. If I did, I read the book of Numbers, which should be called Stop Complaining. Because the point of the book of Numbers, if you haven't read your Bible in a while, and I get that some of that book's a little dull. There's the dull part and the story part. If you haven't read that book in a while, what's going on is that they are finally getting toward the promised land of Canaan, but the people are complaining. In fact, they're like, we want to go back to Egypt. They had cucumbers there. Slavery wasn't so bad. We had cucumbers. I'm not joking. It's really there, right? And so they're complaining and they're complaining, and God's like, that's it. They don't go in. In fact, maybe not quite to hell with them, but it's something to that effect. And Moses is like, hold on, God. Hold on. And he's like, all right, fine. I won't condemn them, but they still can't go in because all they do is whine and complain. I gave them 10 examples, and 10 is a symbolic number here. It means lots and lots and lots of miracles. For goodness sakes, they're allegedly eating manna every day.
Bro, I think everyone who buys into James Lindsay's Gnosticism bullshit is a retard that has never listened to the left. That's what I think. Are you actually a groiper? Because real groipers, and I interact with a lot of them, would never accuse Nick of purity spiraling. So I'm starting to question if you're a real groiper, and I'm going to probably ignore you from now on because you think I'm captured by my audience. Are you fucking retarded? Just, bro, like, I'm going to go and block you on Twitter right now. We're going to make this real easy. You're not smart enough to be here. Goodbye.
miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle saying that I will take care of you, although you don't know when you'll be delivered. You don't know the time.
Real groypers would literally never accuse Nick Fuentes. Hang on. Real groypers would literally never accuse Nick Fuentes of purity spiraling. That would never happen. Bye. Bye, bitch. Bye, fake groyper. Hang on. Let me just get into the, let me get into the Twitter and block this asshole. Hang on. See, guys, here's the thing. You've got to be cautious about people on Twitter claiming to be groypers because a lot of them are not actually real groypers. This is a lesson that I've learned. Yeah, real groypers would literally never, and I mean fucking never, accuse Nick of purity spiraling. It would never fucking happen. Hang on, let me just get into this real quick. It's taking a minute to load because I'm streaming. Hey, thank you for the super sticker. Appreciate it. Guys, please mount the like button if you have not mounted the like button already while I am blocking this fake-ass fucking groyper from my feed because I don't want any fake groypers in my feed. They just cause confusion. They just cause confusion and chaos. Can we meet our goal today? We are $28 away from our super chat goal. Can we meet our super chat goal today? I think that would be pretty great. Goodbye, fake groyper. You just got blocked. Goodbye.
Example after example after example, and you don't have any gratitude. You don't recognize it. You're still complaining. You're still, woe is me. It was better in a different way. Okay, so if I just saw a miracle, which maybe I did, and I bet a lot of you believe that you did, with Trump, I don't know why he was spared, if that's what happened, but he was, it appears. If we just saw a miracle, we have no room to complain. We only have to work. And if we bounce that off of Genesis 4, where Cain and Abel...
If we meet the super chat goal, I will play the James Lindsay Gnostic Sex Cult song again at the end. That will happen. Thank you, Reagan.
Have their spat.
$28.
The story there was that Abel was making the sacrifice of the fats of the first fruit of his flock, and Cain was making kind of a low-grade offering out of not such best fruit that he was picking from his plants, his trees, his groves. And so God smiled on Abel but didn't smile on Cain. Cain got upset, displaced the blame off of himself onto his brother, took a rock, took care of business. Bad mojo, right? So there's a story there. What I want to tell you is if you want to win, if you want to deserve to win, if you want to be miracle worthy, you have to sacrifice.
Thanks, Andrew.
You have to give up some of your time. You have to give up some of your money.
$18 more.
You need to be door knocking. You need to be putting money behind candidates that can make a difference in your community. You need to sacrifice. You need to be willing to stand there and get called names and not care because you know you're doing the right thing. You have to be willing to lose the friends who aren't willing to stand with you for the right thing because communism is on the ballot. This is real. This is not a trick.
Yay! Nikki
So you need to be willing to sacrifice that pride to call the thing what it is.
$13 more.
To stand up in front of people and say this is wrong. I just heard a man speak up in Chicago and say, I tried to speak up about this recently, and what happened was immediately I was called a transphobe. And within 5 minutes they were calling me a racist, and it doesn't even make sense. They just had progressed through the whole list. And then he said, I don't know what to do because I don't want to be called those things. And my social circle, then he started like kind of doing the thing that the book of Numbers says don't do. Right? And I was thinking, that guy's not going to make it to Canaan, and NGMI, as the Gen Z says, not going to make it. And I thought, he's held hostage by what he won't sacrifice, with his social circle, with his job, with his friends, with his reputation. And until he's willing to make those sacrifices, like so many of us already have, he's not miracle worthy. So if you want to get out of this, figure out what your talents are and how to multiply them and put them to work. Do it today. If you want to get out of this, figure out what you can, what is a real sacrifice worth making, and of course, it's not that you have to just give away everything like a fool. And make the sacrifices. Make smart, meaningful sacrifices to do the right thing. Because one last Bible quote, I forgot, Book of James somewhere, it says, For he who knows the right thing to do and doesn't do it, it is a sin. Let that weigh on you. We can get out of this. This is a turning point in history, and the tide is turning in our favor. We need to keep pushing. We need to work harder. Thank you for bringing me this up.
Standing ovation, a standing ovation for James. He did such an amazing job. James was stunning and beautiful and brave. And James just, he quoted the Bible, guys. Come on. Now there's about 20 more minutes of this, so I don't know if we're going into like a Q&A or what.
Okay, that was amazing. And just so you know, all the stuff you talked about, you know, we do have it in South Carolina. Y'all know that, right? Yes. Okay. In the history books, all this, everything he was saying, we've got that drag queen that just got fired recently. Thank you very much for that.
We got that drag queen, y'all.
Yeah, he was at, well,
we got that drag queen story hour.
Oh, listen, every time I hear you, you get better, so thank you so much.
Yeah.
100 years ago, maybe 50, at my college campus, everybody I knew had a copy of One Dimensional Man under their arm, Herbert Marcuse. And for the first time, I understand the story there. You know,
No, you don't. No,
I was
you
a young
don't.
man, and so I wasn't really understanding it. But that whole
I think you
sense about
understand, but you have
using
no idea
sexuality
because James
to
has lied to
break
you.
through all sense of normal.
No.
It was just, I had an epiphany while you were talking.
Oh, well, thank you. I will tell you, by the way, first of all, let me thank you for the kindest curse possible. Every time I speak, I get better. It means that sooner or later, what goes up must come down. I'm glad I didn't bomb tonight. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, so Herbert Marcuse was the most influential Marxist probably in the Western world, at least. I mean, we're not going to compete against Mao or Stalin in the East. But in the Western world, he was probably the most influential of the Marxists of the middle of the 20th century. And like Gene just said, every student he knew in college had a copy of his book under his arm. In 1964, the year that One Dimensional Man came out, which is his kind of biggest, most famous book, over 300,000 copies sold that year. This guy was a rock star. His influence actually cannot even be, you can't even understand how big a deal this guy was. He was the father of the New Left. And he, by the way, explicitly said that he was importing, what? Maoism into America. So I say that the fruits of his work were American Maoism. He's hard to read, but I do encourage you, if you have time to read or listen to some of my podcasts where I read through Herbert Marcuse for yourself. The starting place is an essay called Repressive Tolerance that he wrote the next year. But actually, through these works in the 60s, not just the breaking through of sexuality to destroy all norms, which is especially from his 1955 book called Eros and Civilization. And the stuff in the 60s, he actually sets the stage for the world we live in today because he says that socialism as it exists in the world, like Soviet Union, and capitalism actually are not that different from one another. And of course, neither works because neither has that qualitative change inside. And he says the problem with capitalism...
A third mention of capitalism. Holy shit. Do you mean to tell me when James is quoting actual socialists like Marcuse, he mentions capitalism? Do you mean to tell me, James? Because James is quoting Marcuse right now. The last two times James has mentioned capitalism, he's quoting Marcuse. This isn't coming from James. This is coming from an actual fucking socialist. So James, you mean to tell us that when you're quoting actual socialists, they talk incessantly about capitalism? I know we're all shocked at this revelation, James. Please tell us, what is the problem with capitalism according to Marcuse, James?
Is that it produces goods and stabilizes the workers. So we don't need to have a working class as the base of revolution anymore. So now they can go into corporate power and other forms of power. They don't have a fealty they don't have any loyalty left to the working class. They're abandoning them for identity politics, is what he says to put in its place. But he also says that that capitalism produces, but it's not sustainable. Right? So that's the buzzword of our decade, or our time, right? Sustainability and inclusion. So That is on the one side. He says socialism, on the other hand, has the right idea, but it's
That's not what they mean by sustainability, James.
not generating that qualitative change, and part of the reason is that it can't produce. So if you could produce a productive socialism, by the way, that's what they did in China by opening literally a fascist market within the under the Chinese government for the glory of communism. That's called Deng Xiaoping theory. It came after Mao died. And then if you could get a bridle on capitalism with ESG scores to make it more sustainable and inclusive, then you would actually have two competing corporate communist systems. That means you really only have one system throughout the whole world. So if you wonder the big picture of why all of this is happening and why it's coordinated through the CCP and the United Nations and so on, that's the big picture story. And it starts with this character that Gene said when he was in college. Every other person had a copy of that book underneath their arms because he was that influential. So he's the father of the New Left. He also said in 1972
No, he's not.
that after his revolution in 68 didn't work, that what had to happen was people needed to go into the professions and preach their ideology within their jobs and get the job done, bringing socialism in. And what he said in particular is that it needs to happen in education at all levels. And that's what actually started the long march through the institutions in the United States. It's the same guy. So you can't underestimate his influence.
Marcuse didn't start the long march through the institutions. Who did that? What the fuck is his name? Gramsci. That was Gramsci, James. That wasn't Marcuse. That was Gramsci.
And his importance. He's the architect of basically the whole world that we have today. Like I said, he's a hard read, but I do encourage you to try to pick up some of his stuff and read it. Herbert Marcuse. So you probably pronounce it on first sight as Marcuse. M-A-R-C-U-S-E.
Herbert Marcuse, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was good. Thank you. Okay, I just want to say this real quick. Carlton is here. That just, I don't know when you got here. Sorry, I didn't see you earlier. And anyway, he's running for House seat. What's your district?
House seat 15. It's North Charleston, Hanahan, New Street.
Yeah, but just real quick. So yeah, I'll just tell it real quick. He did go to Park Circle, you know, the drag queen stuff that was going on in June, and he videotaped it, and we were able to send it to the district. And that one of the drag queens there was an employee at CCSD, a teacher. I know you're going to say it, and he was actually a counselor. So when James was talking about these counselors, and he was bragging about it, you know, kids, and then he kept telling kids to just keep. He said he was, you know, what they do is they perform, and then they read a book that's in the LGBTQ theme to the children, and his theme was you know, the butterfly, right? The caterpillar transitioning. So he says, we're all going to transition. And he said, listen, if you think you're a butterfly and you're still a caterpillar, don't give up on your transition. So we got this on video. I just wanted you to know that, yes, we have that.
I went on a recon mission.
Yeah.
I read about, it's going to be story time with drag queens for children. And I was like, man, should I go? I was like, go do it, man. I sat there and filmed this. It was horrible. If you can, donate to my campaign, votecarlwalker.com. Put me in, coach, is my slogan. I'm running against J.A. Moore. His website that I created is No More J.A. Moore. He's for men and girls sports. He voted against stopping little kids from being transitioned. I mean, what else do I need to say?
And one more thing, sorry.
This district.
Yeah, it's Mike Van, where's Mike? I'm sorry, y'all. He's running for treasurer. He's got to win. Yes, Mike.
I just comment real quickly on this Caterpillar story, which I hadn't heard before. I just point out, Caterpillar is transforming, right? In fact, he is imagining what can be.
Not a single person that James has spoken to in the course of this presentation understands the left, understands what their goal is, understands how they show up in the world, understands what their language is. They are all convinced that Kamala Harris is a socialist. They're all convinced that this is just about grooming kids and drag queens. They have no fucking idea. And listen, again, it's not their fault they have no fucking idea, because they've been served up James on a silver fucking platter as the expert in this that's going to teach them, and he is failing at every single occasion. He doesn't understand what he's talking about. And because he doesn't understand what he's talking about, he is incorrectly educating millions of fucking people.
Unburdened by what he's been. I I'm telling you, that phrase, as dumb as it sounds, is the heartbeat of Marxism.
Yes, okay. Y'all want to do one more questions? And by the way, wait a minute, I know people are leaving. Does anybody have any questions about anything coming up or anything? No, maybe not.
No updates, no videos.
No videos. Did anybody video or take pictures tonight?
Yeah.
Because I have a video, Corey's videotape, we're going to put it on our website and we'll share it. But
and on the Overton report.
And Overton report. Do y'all know Corey Allen with the Overton report? He does amazing work. He does really good investigative reporting for I would say the Low Country, but the whole state really, the whole state. So we really need Corey. Yes, Lori. Oh, wait a minute. So the Overton report, join the Overton report, and he'll have the video. He'll be playing this meeting on his. So the next meeting, we're not having. That's what I was saying in the beginning. We're gonna not have another. Y'all, early voting starts October 21st. So October 21st, early, but it's just right around the corner. That's why I say, let's volunteer, let's get organized in our neighborhoods, let's do this at precinct levels. And we're not going to we can't top a James Lindsay this year anyway, it's not going to happen. So we're not going to have another big meeting until after the elections. But yeah, so did you have a question?
There's probably a longer.
One more question.
If there's a continuum and it's people in this room on one side and all the way on the other side, and there's all the people that their head up their behinds are in the sand in the middle that just, so many of my friends aren't even aware of the news and on top of it. But as you move in that continuum to the left, right, so you have the real true believers with their sphere, and then you have the sheep that are following them. Like, how do you break down that population? How many are the true believers that really believe this shit?
Okay, so this is a complicated question, but in a sense he's asking me, he says, if you look at the left, you definitely got the true believers, and then you've got kind of a cloud of sheep who are following them. Then you got these people who are kind of the head in the sand, and they're not, they just go which way the wind blows really, and they're not really paying attention. Then you got us, that are kind of the resistors and the counter-revolutionaries, as Mal called them. So his question was, how do you break all of this down? I don't want to talk about all the groups, I'm going to talk about the three, right? Okay, and then the strategy point that's actually very important. So thanks for the question. I won't get into too much detail because we could talk for an hour about this for real, and it's actually really practicable. But it's very difficult to tell, but all cults are organized into kind of three layers. They might be graded within each layer, but there's three basic layers. There's the actual ringleaders of the cult. They're sometimes called the inner circle. Those people are mostly the people that are throwing big bucks at it and that have big political agendas. They might or might not believe the doctrine, or they might believe something related. A lot of us know that a lot of these people don't particularly care one way or the other maybe about trans, but they know it gets them political power, so they're using it cynically to do that. That's fine, it happens. Below them, there's a group that, drawing from the Chinese terminology for this, the two other groups are called the inner circle and the outer circle. So the inner circle are going to be those activists that Charlie's asking about, and the outer circle are going to be the sheep. We're not to the head in the sand, the sleep people yet. That's a different category altogether. And so these are people that are in the cult. And this is, make no mistake, a cult. One of the things I meant to tell you and didn't is that in queer education, there's this guy, Kevin Kumashiro, that we quoted in Queering of the American Child, who says that the responsibility of an educator doing queer education is to lead the children into emotional crisis and structure the environment around them to resolve the crisis productively. That's called brainwashing, that's called child abuse, but it's called trauma bonding as well.
The name tags now all have the suicide hotlines for schools.
That's right. The goal is to actually traumatize your children in order to give them the political thing that you want them to receive. So telling kids about suicide that they probably never thought about before gets them thinking about it.
Yeah.
So turns out the inner circle mostly knows what they're doing pushing that. Some people in there are grifters who just know how to play the game really well, and they maybe don't believe it, but most of them actually are the true believers who are all in. And they're kind of hard to tell, but the easiest way to tell is that if you ask them kind of a hard question about it, they're going to spit back a paragraph of nonsense at you that uses like 14 words you don't know. The sheep, on the other hand, usually can't do that, and they're just going to call you a transphobe. They're just going to get really mad and call you a name. Now, what I want to point out to you at this point is that the sheep are victims of this cult. They are not the perpetrators. The people who are going to vomit back a paragraph of theory at you are actually the perpetrators. And they're actually being driven by ringleaders who are probably cynical manipulators who have other purposes. This is a communist revolution happening in our country, for instance, And I would bet you the people that are funding it do not actually care one way or the other about communism. They have some other really dark religion that's actually pushing it, but communism is great for breaking a country. And so the point isn't necessarily to have a communism. The point is actually to use communists to destroy America. So anyway, the way that you want to deal with this is why I said you have to be discerning, or wise as serpents, but also gentle as doves. You want to be gentle with people who are victims of a cult and try to lead them out. The people in the middle that have their heads in the sand, they're hard to reach because they don't care. They're low engagement, they're low interest, they're low information. They tend to vote Democrat for those reasons. How do I know that? By putting them down? No, I was one of them. People ask all the time, James, you're so smart. Why in the world did you vote Democrat for so many years? Well, I was in a left social circle, and I was in a university. It's just what everybody did around me, and I thought I was really smart, but I had the shallowest knowledge possible about every single political topic that I've ever talked to. And every single former Democrat that I've talked to said the same thing about why they voted that way too. They don't know what's going on, and in fact, they don't really want to know. Their political knowledge is, you challenged them on something, so they typed it into Google and found something to argue back, that's at the end. And they're not deep. So what your goal is you're not going to change that inner circle group, the true believers, like they're locked in, and the grifters, you really won't change the grifters. You have to exclude those people from positions of power, and where you can, I point to the DNC at the moment, you want to play those people off of one another, set them up so that they squabble over details of theory. That's actually much harder to do than you think. Their solidarity is really high. But the people that are just the sheep following the cult, you want to catch them, help them find contradictions, help them see through, help them, in other words, take a red pill, and then be a landing pad for them so they'll come out. And the people who are just kind of heads in the sand, just do your best, try to give them information, you'll catch some of them and wake them up. But here's the really important point besides how that breaks down. Percentage-wise, I wouldn't guess, honestly, that more than 15 to 20% of the population of this country, actually the numbers on the trans stuff tell us they're polls. 30% of the population is kind of in that camp to some degree or another, 70% is not. So we have some sense of it. I would say 10% are probably really in, 20% are vaguely in because their friends say they have to be. Everybody else isn't. But the people that are head in the sand just kind of, well, what are we doing? Everybody that's transphobe, okay, we'll go this way. And that's kind of how it works. You want to wake as many of them up, but here's the mistake people make. You start doing these talks, you start doing these meetings, you start talking to people, and you get really frustrated. I tell people, and they just don't get it, and they just don't get it. Because here's what's really happening. You're telling people, like, believe me, I hear this all the time. You saved me, you said this, you woke me up. I've had people tell me I saved their lives. I mean, literally, they're going to commit suicide because they thought they're going crazy. Like, I've had so many different stories. And what happens, when you feel like I can't wake anybody up, let me tell you the actual truth. You're waking up 3 or 4 or 5 out of every 100 you talk to, and then you forgot all about them because you're so mad about the 90 who won't listen to you. So put your energy where it goes. Help those people get up to the next level so this becomes a snowball. One of my favorite quotes in all of literature, it's just cute. I just thought it was cute before, now I think it's extremely serious, and I talk about it a lot, is where, I'm sorry we end on such a dorky note, but we're going to do a Lord of the Rings, which I guess J.D. Vance made cool, so we can do that. So, there's the tree. If you don't know Lord of the Rings, you're lost. I'm not fixing that for you. You want to go home. But just watch the movies. I can't believe I said that. Read the book. Don't watch the movies, read the book. But there's the tree people, and the tree people are super strong and go basically save the day in a major way. And it turns out the tree people are hard to get motivated. And it turns out that the 2 little hobbits that got captured by the orcs got dragged off to where the tree people are, and we're just telling them what was going on in the world. And then the tree people get roused and go break Isengard and all this stuff. So that's the point of the story. But the way Gandalf the wizard characterizes this, he says, I think the coming of those 2 little hobbits to Fangorn Forest, where the tree people live, is like the felling of 2 small stones that started an avalanche. So when you think that you're too small to make a difference, you need to...
Hey guys, I'm dealing with a situation here. Has he said anything that I need to go back and listen to and debunk? Because I'm dealing with a situation here. Please let me know in the chat.
Think of that. A small stone being kicked can start an avalanche that changes the landscape. I'll tell you one example of this in real life, right? One example, and then everybody can go home. My friend Billboard Chris Elston, a lot of you will have heard of him. He wears billboards that say things like, kids cannot consent to puberty blockers, and goes and starts conversations. He's had tens of thousands of conversations, He's spoken in front of parliaments. He's spoken in front of Congress. He meets with congressmen all the time. He meets with state legislators. This man is changing the world single-handedly. It's amazing to watch.
Oh
Why
yeah,
did this
Billboard
happen? He went out
Chris
to
is
lunch
gonna
one day
save
a few
us
years
all.
ago.
Billboard
These two
Chris
young
is
girls,
fucking
they're teenagers
Canadian.
now. They were like 8 at the time. And he went out to lunch and somebody said something about, he had heard that they're doing this thing with puberty blockers. And Chris was like, what are those? So he went home and he typed into a search engine and he says, oh wow, they are exactly what they sound like they are. And something stirred in his head, and now the man's changing the world. So somebody, not thinking one or thing, nobody, I don't even know who this guy is, Chris probably does. Somebody just in casual conversation said, it's crazy, they're doing puberty blockers to kids. And Chris, something set off in his brain and he became an avalanche. He was the tree people that went and busted Isengard. And so you don't know what difference you're making if you're standing up and telling the truth, even if you're only telling it at the dinner table, if you're only telling it at a restaurant table. So don't underestimate yourself. Don't think you're too small. If you're part of this organization, you're not. But always, always keep in the back of your head that you might be kicking a stone by telling the truth that's going to set off an avalanche that changes your state of the world.
If you want to stay informed, please.
All right, that's basically the end of it. I don't even know what to say. I truly don't even know what to say. I truly don't even know what to say. I really don't know what to say. You know, the reason I have a situation right now is I've just been denounced basically by an organization that I gave a talk to, where I gave them actually a really good deal on this talk, and I was nothing but nice about this talk, and it's just like I was nothing but nice to everyone involved, and I went out of my way for this organization, and I just discovered like a public fucking denouncement on Twitter because of my opinions about certain groups. And it's like I had this shit happen while at the same time I'm listening to James Lindsay steal my shit and lie to people at the same time. The shit that he stole from me was correct. Everything else was covered in lies. Yo, he got permanently banned on YouTube? Oh, I don't like Taylor Hanson, but like that sucks. That sucks. Anyway. Hang on. I'll deal with that later. You know, people want to be lied to, guys. People want to be lied to. Can we all just kind of like accept that? People want to be lied to. Yeah, human centipede, that's the one. Yep. Yep. That's the one. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. And they're saying it's like, I'm texting with the owner right now and he's like saying it was about abortion. And I'm like, in your denouncement, you specifically listed my opinions about certain groups. And I don't think those certain groups are pro-choice people. I'm sorry. I just don't think those certain groups are pro-choice people. No one is coming to save us. We have to get ourselves in a position of being uncancelable and not beholden to any group to say the things we want to say and to do the things we want to do. Thank you, Renan. Yeah, we do live on the dumbest of timelines. We live on the dumbest of fucking timelines. You know, I've never said anything hateful. I've actually gone out of my way to say I don't hate anyone. I really don't hate anyone. I literally just had Adam King invite me to go to Israel the other day. Like, literally last night, Adam King's like, Carlin, why don't you come to Israel with me? And I was like, okay, I'll go to Israel. And I would. Adam King is a freaking Jew. Like, I mean, like, he's like King fucking Jew. Like, I mean, like, what do people want? What do people want? I've never been hateful to anyone. I've never called for the genocide of anyone. I've never called for violence against anyone. And it's like, literally all I do is watch the far left on the internet. That's literally it. That's all I do. I just can't take the right seriously. I can't take them seriously at all. I cannot take them seriously. I cannot fucking take them seriously. I don't know, man. Like, Elijah said, fuck it. He is having a show wearing a Russian hat and a Russian flag with Putin, and he might be next on YouTube. I mean, Elijah has a backup channel with like censor.org or censor.com, I guess, or censor.tv, whatever he is. I don't know, man. I just don't know. I just don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. Like, I don't even want to yell about James anymore because I feel like I yelled enough and I feel like I wore myself out and I feel like... But remember, guys, what really matters is my weight. What really matters is my weight. That's the most important thing. That's the most important thing that I'm about to get hit with. That what really matters is my weight and how I look and, you know... Yeah, it's definitely not. What doesn't matter is communist destroying society. That doesn't matter. What doesn't matter is like our absolute kind of like subjugation to a foreign power. That doesn't fucking matter. Remember, guys, what really matters is my weight. That's what really matters. That's what really matters. What really matters is my weight. What really matters is I don't even know what to say. I just don't even know what to say. Anyway, I'm going to be doing a Twitter space in a couple hours with Siggy, who's a griper. And Siggy and I are basically going to be chatting and getting to know each other. So if you want to come onto Twitter in a couple hours and join us, and I'm gonna continue drinking. I'm gonna go eat some food. I know I'm not allowed to eat. I know I'm not allowed to eat food because because like remember what the most important thing is my weight. But I'm gonna go eat some food because I'm actually allowed to eat dinner too. And then I'm gonna do a Twitter space, and I'm probably gonna watch Nick's show until then. And I have this stream from yesterday. I'm gonna make clips of. The stream from yesterday was really good. And we're going to mull over this new war with James Lindsay over the weekend. We're absolutely going to do it, but I want everyone to mull over the new war with James Lindsay because fuck that asshole. Seriously, fuck that asshole. I have no idea even what to say about that. And you can watch Nick on Rumble. Just look up Nick J. Fuentes and it'll come right up. And remember, the most important thing that you need to know about me is, according to everyone on the internet, is that I'm just too fat to listen to. And even though I've never called for violence against anyone, I'm just an evil, evil, evil person. Remember that. Remember that. All right. I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.